Yeah.
Oh, and we got
Is my mic working? Anybody
Tom's
hear me?
default. You're
No?
talking, Ryan? Yeah, you're still default.
Oh, my mic works?
Yep.
Does my mic
I can
work?
hear you.
Okay.
I
Good.
can hear you talking, Ryan.
Okay.
But there's three of you in the room.
Except they're all different people. One of them's Tom.
Martin, did you make the
Okay, and I can't
blue
remember who
robot over
adventurer
there?
or
Is that
avatar.
you controlling it?
Zach,
The blue robot
Hear me?
is
What?
it's like
I can hear
yeah,
the
I just got an email
view
from
that
somebody
is
trying to get
controlling
into
the Twitch stream.
into the event.
Oh,
I'll get it. I'll
You
get
got
it.
it?
I'm importing Eventbrite right now. I'll tag him onto the bottom.
It's Mary. Okay, cool.
And I'll email her back.
All right, I wasn't sure what the heck was going on with the PC client. You mentioned something about griefers and removing
Yeah.
features.
Yeah.
I got about 12, but
I'll keep the rant short, but it will be
Well, there you
bitter.
go, Ian. Ryan looks like he's about 10 now.
yeah, I know. I look 12, but I have some facial hair. That's
Yeah,
I mean,
Ian, you look great, but Ryan's behind you, and he looks like he's 9.
Let's see. Where's Mary?
You're really
Martin,
staring
you
at
can go
people
blue. I
creepy
didn't
way.
realize that.
I am.
Zach is. The side eye.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Okay.
eyes are just spooky.
It's-
Yeah.
it is a little disturbing, side eye.
So when I do this, Mark, what do my eyes look like?
There you're actually looking at him because there's someone else in your field of view. But if you look this way,
Oh.
if you look
It's
to
you.
your left,
Oh, that
like
works.
if you look that way, no, you're still looking. You were still looking that way. It wasn't as bad. They may have
That's
changed
kinda
that a bit.
creepy.
Yeah, now you're creepy and now you're creeperton for sure.
You were Creeperton when I came over.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Hmm.
So
Who knew
Ian,
eyes were
what
so
is-
important?
Interesting
Oh,
observation.
we all
what's
did.
that?
Who knew eyes were so important? Oh, we all did.
Yeah.
Cover
Yeah,
over
right.
people that are
Yeah.
on the stage. So we can't see what the
Look at Martin. He's like-
presenters are.
He's got something. He's planning something right now. Doesn't he look like he's planning something?
Oh, he's sitting down now, though.
How you sit down?
Just move your. There you go.
Okay.
You just sort of move your butt over by the chair, and it drops you.
Oh, I see. They just have a ramp on the glider or something.
Yeah, there's just a little cliff there. Or
Yeah.
like a little trough.
It works. No,
It's funny.
it's fine, right?
So yeah, I can't
Did you
even
see him,
point
Mr.
at the
Jensen?
people on the stage, so I will never know
Definitely,
who
it's
they
been a
are.
while, yeah.
That's weird.
They could be anybody.
Why would they
Yeah,
do that?
that's a bad feature. We'll have them speak.
Oh, what's that you can't tell who's on stage?
You can't
Yeah.
click them.
Yeah,
So,
click on
one of my
drag.
one of my favorite parts of the Microsoft mixed reality conference they had in here was eventually they noticed they had to mute the entire audience because of all the background noise, and then they sent a message to the whole audience. It's like, just click on us and send us a message to ask questions. And then they left the stage blocker turned on so you couldn't click on them, and now everybody was muted. And so I guess nobody has any questions. It's very enjoyable.
Good time.
All right, so that should be good. Let's see what else. Did Patrick leave? Nope,
What's
there's
that?
Patrick.
No, I'm
Hey,
just eating.
so one of the pertinent side effects relevant to your interests of not having slides in web browsers
Yeah.
means we can't show up your book, but it's got a real
Boo.
distinct name.
Sure.
What's your book? What are you talking about, book?
No. not my
Secret.
book.
It's a plug coming up here.
Secret.
But it's on Amazon too. I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Zach, what's the name of the book?
Patrick should know that.
Oh,
Otherwise,
no, what I was going to
cheating.
say is we all have our individual web browsers. We could definitely say like, just go and search for X and
Well,
yeah.
that's hacky.
We
but
don't all have individual web browsers.
Why not?
Who does not?
Just the lead platform, the PC, does not.
Are you kidding? What? That is so insane.
Spoilers. I got a good rant coming. Just don't.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Let me load
Also-
up.
Rain on his rant, man.
That's awesome.
Also, I'm going to say I just opened up a web browser and it says, "Oops, the space is running too many browsers or video players or SDK apps."
Nice.
No. Well,
Don't break the space, anybody, please.
so
You're
Well,
spoiling
Zach,
his
that
rant,
should make you feel
man.
Hi, Mary.
good knowing a web browser.
I know,
I'm
Mary.
gonna sit next to you.
So good
Hey,
news. Me
hey, Zach.
updating the email list.
Touch
Work.
each other.
Yeah.
I would also argue that
Wait, I gotta
desktop
turn
VR
my
isn't the
bubble
lead
off.
platform by
There
any
you go.
stretch, but
Hi,
that's
Mary. My
also a
name's
new
Mike.
weird tension thing, right?
Yeah,
Who are you?
but
Actually, I don't know
it's
you.
owned by
I have a bubble
Microsoft.
on?
I'm to your left, yeah.
Oh, I do have a bubble
Oh,
on.
is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
High five.
Well, why would they not do this right? Yeah. Okay.
I think my
Yeah,
internet's
why would
fading.
they? Why would they not?
Oh, I'm back.
How do you move the
All
menu
right.
around?
You got to kind of rotate your head and then it snaps after a while.
Oh,
That-
gotcha. Okay.
That's
That's
the
nice.
only
Annoying.
option.
It's not good.
Not the best.
Very bad.
Yeah, it seems wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go
Okay.
to
So one other
Raptors.
thing I want to test out. We're cranking up our skill set with the host tools in here.
Kick Zach.
Somebody,
wanna
yeah.
Try that.
What's that?
Kick Zach.
Be good. Actually, yeah. Kick me. I'm done. If one single person, I like Scott Gaff. Can you try raising your hand? Is that even a choice for you right now? On the UI interface. Is that even a choice for you?
Where is it usually?
What does it look
I
like?
don't know.
I'm doing it.
Emoticon?
Oh,
one of
hey,
the
it appears above the
emojis.
heads. Where is it on the
Am I doing
interface?
it? Oh yeah. You
You
can
gotta
see
go
the
to the
emoji.
emoji.
You can
It's
look
the
up.
emoji. It's an emoji raise hands.
Yeah, I'm
It's an
running the
emoji.
2D and it's emoji, yeah. You hit emoji,
Ah,
then you go to
okay.
the upper right of that, and then you go, and it's a choice.
Cool. So then from there, I should be able to see who's got their hands raised. No. Ooh, here we go. Hang on. Different hand. Look at that now on your lower right. That's
What's
the
that
other
about?
hand raised. Not to be confused with
What's it look
physically
like?
raising your hand, which would be the third hand raised.
Right.
What?
Sweet.
Whoa.
What does it look like when you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, somebody.
oh,
Um,
it's just
It only
Yeah,
appears in the host panel.
Yeah, I can see that now. That's
I don't see it above me.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't
Can-
know I have my hand raised.
Can you not know? Yeah, I suppose you just look at the icon to know if it's highlighted, if it's blue or not.
So the purpose of this is like, oop, somebody. Oh, Mary, we're gonna pick on you if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I just amplified your voice. Can everybody hear Mary now?
Can
Nope.
you hear me?
He's,
No?
Now
I can.
she's louder. Okay, that's what we'll do then for the Q and
I
A
can
part.
hear.
That worked as expected. That's delightful.
oh, the
And
raising hand. Nice.
Unexpected. Yeah. So not the emoji hand raise, although if things go poorly, go ahead and do that. We'll play it by ear as we go.
What do you see when we have our hand raised?
If I've got the host control panel open, which blocks my entire view of the world, you're in a list.
I feel a little uncomfortable but being
I'll
here
be
without
right
masks.
back, Zach.
Okay.
Yeah, we're awfully close for no mask.
Come on, let's get
Stepping
this
back.
20. Yeah, there, wait. One.
Yeah, where's the
two.
6 feet?
6 feet apart, everybody. 6 feet. All right, I'm gonna try to get
Well, I
back on the
think we
stage.
got the 6 feet down.
Ooh, Mark's looking good. Is this on camera? Mark's head.
Oh, he
It
likes.
is.
None of us
You
are
think so?
wearing masks. They should
Why can't
add
I move?
masks to the avatar.
Oh, I'm trapped.
It's 2020. Come on, let's do this. What else do we got?
All right. Yeah, I can't get any closer to the desk, so that's fine, I guess. There is a weird drop off right here. Look at this. Yee.
There's a ramp.
Where did you?
Yeah,
did you
there
go?
is. There's a little invisible ramp there.
Oh.
All right, let me check the email, see if anybody else is struggling to get in here. Whee!
Hey, RJ.
RJ here? RJ.
There's somebody who says there's RJ next to me.
I'm gonna make that guy a host so I can get on the stage. He's muted. We're not gonna hear him.
He's busy changing his appearance.
Oh,
Sorry,
stubble.
I couldn't unmute myself while I was customizing.
Yeah, what happened to Ryan Foss? He fixed his avatar?
Yep, I think so. He has
Okay.
he has an '80s sort of 5 o'clock shadow now.
I do like I do like the new avatars though. These are more.
I like
character.
everything pretty well except the eye contact is way too much.
Eye thing is just
Yeah, it's
creepy.
a little weird.
You know, they were sort of dead before, but kind of knew what was going on.
Okay.
So what is the algorithm with the eyes? They like you look at somebody when they're talking, or
That seems to happen, and then it tries, even if they're not talking, it seems like it kind of likes to look at people still.
this blue alternate Marty was giving me the eye just a minute ago.
Yep, he's watching.
Yeah, it's definitely
I
attracting
am
you.
watching you.
Hello. Yeah, he totally looks at you when you say something. How you doing?
Hey there, Marty. Hey, non-Marty.
Even turns his head. Wait, no, he's
Oh
alive.
my gosh, that's probably real Marty.
Oh, okay. He's alive. Run away.
He's a mute killer. RJ, you should be able to come on stage whenever you're pretty enough.
Did they ever make it so that people in the 2D interface can move their hands?
I don't think so. I think it's head only with the right click.
Yeah.
That used to be kind of the giveaway. It's the hands at the sides.
Oh,
And I think if you attend an Oculus Go, you get one hand, which is funny too.
You can tell the people
All right.
who are laying down
Well-
had their hands kind of weirdly in front of them.
Get rolling in about 10 minutes here. Who we missing? Mark's presence, but his head is here. RJ's made it halfway to the stage. Patrick's good. Oh, Shane. Let me see what Shane's doing.
Matt coming?
Matt. Yeah, where's Matt?
I heard him.
You can always tell Matt because he's got a baseball cap on.
Yep. It's like real life.
Okay, does my microphone work now?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. This one's a trouble. Thank you.
What headset you got?
Oh, it's a Turtle Beach wireless. It gives me all sorts of weird problems.
Oh, you're on a
Plug
laptop.
it back in. Yeah. My basement's my home office now for COVID, so no VR space. And using the Oculus Go, it burns out after about 20 minutes. So when
Is the battery shot?
No, it just heats up or battery
Oh.
goes out and just reboots.
I was gonna say, overheats.
Yeah.
Then do you get the icon on the screen that says overheating?
Nope, just reboots or just turns itself off. I had the last meeting, which was a couple months ago. I missed last month's, but I had ice packs that I was holding on my chest. with my mouth closed.
Hilarious.
Yep. I was gonna say something, but then it died, and I just
What about your Vive?
can't it anymore. I guess I could set it up and sit at my desk, but if I'm sitting here, it's like annoying to wear that thing.
Wow.
But man,
Okay,
Yeah, a
so
little
I'm going to do
disappointed in
something
the
I've
Go.
never done in any of these meetings that I should have, which is plug in my headset so it doesn't die.
Yep.
Nice, good idea.
I suppose that's a good idea.
Thinking about doing that right. Thinking about, I mean, I'm going to do.
And I turned my lights on for when it goes dark.
Yep, that's another good one if you're on a
I almost
quest.
feel like you should.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Give everyone the megaphone, because I can barely hear Ryan, and I'm even on the same side of the audience as him.
I don't know if I can do that.
Anyone know if there's any incompatibility with new Xbox and VR? Any VR sets?
No, they've been really poo-pooing that. So maybe next year when PSVR 2 comes out, that's when I predict it'll be.
It seems weird that they haven't done all their mixed reality headsets to work with it. Like, why not?
Yeah, it is.
They're
Yep.
all internal. I mean, like, they're all inside out.
Yeah, I mean, I just assumed.
Yeah, I was expecting that announcement, and maybe it'll still come this year. I don't know.
I think they've got to be careful. Like even Sony, you can't ask somebody to buy a console and then something else in the same year. So I think they won't say much at all until next year.
Maybe keep your product
Well,
line
probably.
focused.
And
Yeah.
Xbox is probably also involved in their Bethesda acquisition.
Yeah, that's right.
So has
Yeah, they're
anybody
very
here
focused.
actually touched an Oculus 2?
No, I don't think so.
The Quest 2?
Hey, RJ, get
Quest
on the
2, I'm
stage.
sorry.
All right.
We knew
That's
exactly
not-
what you meant.
I
Though.
mean, barely anybody's have their hands on those. I think just reviewers, right?
think
That's
so.
what I thought.
There's a few devs. Or do you know anybody nearby that's got a Quest 2? Are you muted
Not
still?
in the area.
There you go.
I'll let you know though.
Seems like everything's so
Is-
hard to get.
Is there any info that's embargoed anymore on Quest 2? I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so. No, I know they've got like a roadmap or something on the developer site that's like got some stuff on it. But I think that's all public knowledge.
Let me hear. I'm gonna. Well, you know what? I can't megaphone you anymore. You have to megaphone yourself now that you're a host.
In my megaphone now.
I don't know.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
not
also
like more
complicated.
louder.
Again, RJ.
Is it better?
Oh, okay. Howdy. Well, these new avatars are interesting. I think Scott and Marty are the ones I recognize like right away, at least with this new system. But
Scott,
Yep.
yeah, Scott's pretty right on. You know him right away.
You can't hear me probably. I could hear you in the back of the room, RJ. So,
oh
Yep.
yeah, ears burning.
You're still distance based.
no, I could hear RJ, but you guys couldn't hear me.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
works.
Megaphone. All right, let me
What's up
check
with
the
these
email.
dips in the stage?
I don't know.
I know that's bugging the crap out of me.
There's like a trough in front of the stage. What's the purpose of
Yeah,
that?
and behind too. If you walk over here, you like dip down.
They
Mhm.
probably saw everyone flying around from last time and figured, oh yeah, well, we'll do this.
Well, that's weird. Oh, there it is.
All right, Shane's on his way in.
What?
If you go into the
Did
menu,
light-
are the textures off on the controllers for you guys too?
Yeah, they're crazy.
Whoa! It's
Way
like,
off.
it's like
On Quest.
reflection maps or something.
Yeah. Well, there's a little,
can't
there's like
tell.
a little face.
Oh, they're like
Weird.
Sharpied, like little faces going, oh!
On the left
It's like a
hand,
Mr.
by the
like
grip,
Mr.
right.
Bill.
Oh
Weird.
no!
That's got to be a mistake, right?
Yes. That
That's
is
too
They're on
weird.
texture. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
how
well.
do you see this? I don't see my
Oh,
controller.
the-
go in the menu. You have to have like
If you're on a Quest.
Whoa.
VR, right?
Whoa, those are hilarious.
Right?
It's good to see other companies make bad mistakes, worse mistakes.
Right? It's comforting.
Yeah.
I-
Okay.
I have a hard time.
Can you take
These,
a screenshot and share it? That's funny.
These lights on the ceiling
That's a good question.
always bug me as like missing textures.
I don't think you can take a screenshot. Maybe.
Sure you can. Oh wait.
How do you get it?
In alt space, you can take a selfie, but I don't know about the interface for the VR.
Yeah, you can't like. Mhm.
I think though, I mean, you can even take a screenshot on like a tablet or a phone. You should be able to.
Yeah, you can take
In the
selfies,
Quest anyway, you can't get a screenshot. I don't think.
and then you could use the OS level screen capture, but then I don't know how you get it into this environment without involving some
Yeah.
PCs.
I mean, yeah. Well, I was thinking it would be really useful.
But how do
and
you
so
take
they,
a? How can you even take an OS level screenshot? What do you do?
If you tap your Oculus menu and you have the new menus activated, you can do it from there and then come back into the app quick to get
Take
like a
photo.
countdown.
Or
There's a
video,
secret
not
shortcut.
photo.
Does anybody know it? It's like I don't even know.
No, I don't.
Oculus
Hmm.
menu plus grip or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you push and hold the Oculus button, and then when you
Whoa! My controllers are normal if I do that.
say take photo, and then it's like a timer. You see a red dot goes deep deep, kind of like that.
yeah, I was gonna say
You
for
can't get
debugging,
a
It would be really useful.
You can't get a photo of your controllers from the OS level menu because you're rendering from the OS level,
think I got
not
it.
within the app.
I think I got
So
it.
your
Well, you can
controllers
go-
are rendered.
You can go to the OS, you can start a screenshot and then come back into the app very quickly and try to set up your shot.
Yeah, exactly. You see that little red
I was
dot?
doing
Very,
Your-
very quickly. You get like 3
Take
seconds.
photo. No, I still have,
like
when
a
I come back into the
pose.
app, I still have the black Oculus controllers.
I got
Uh,
it.
Throughout the whole-
Oh, we're not saying to fix it. We're just
What?
trying to get a screen.
I got it. Now how
Okay.
can I share it?
The quick
Yeah.
screenshot,
Only
hold
to
the Oculus
Facebook.
button down and pull either trigger, and it takes an instant one that's good.
Or Instagram. What are you talking about?
Hey,
Well, I
Zach?
don't even have that option.
No, I'm just joking.
Hey, Zach?
I've never connected
Yep.
it to.
If you hold the Oculus
Yep.
button down and pull a trigger, that takes a screenshot instantly and it looks good.
Trigger or grip?
Trigger, either trigger,
Well,
Yeah,
Let's
there
try
it
it.
is.
and it looks
That's
perfect.
good to know.
blink.
I missed it.
I didn't even know that was a
Oh,
thing.
nice.
Fantastic.
And where
Well,
does it
what
go?
is
it?
Rotating
Yeah.
speed for
That's
itself.
really nice.
It's trigger.
Pro
plus what?
tip.
Hold
Do what?
the Oculus button down and press the trigger down. Press either trigger down. It takes one instantly
Where does the picture go?
into your gallery.
Into
How do I
the
look at
Quest
my
in an
gallery?
impossible way
Yeah.
to get out.
Press the Oculus
It's the
button.
center of a
and
little
knock
maze,
in
and there's
there.
a minotaur running around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You can use SideQuest to get it out, Scott.
Oh, that's. I got a
Yeah,
lot of
or,
boring-
Oh, you go to your
screenshots now.
notifications. They're sitting in there.
Altspace will only load stuff from specific folder. So to get that image behind us, I attached it to a PC and moved something into its folder on the Quest.
So How is that different from the? Hello.
Everybody's taking screenshots.
Yeah.
It's our time here.
How is
Hey,
that
Zach, I
different
just
from
got
the
an
little
invite
picture of a camera
request from
that's on the
Shane,
menu?
so hopefully he can get in.
Okay. Did you
Yeah,
send him the message?
yeah.
And Matt's AWOL. So hopefully he'll make it here pretty soon.
I don't know why I'm so hot today. What the heck?
All right, final check of the email.
He's
Yeah.
probably
I'm
pre-ordering
feeling that.
2090.
I don't know,
focus.
just humidity or I don't know what. Or maybe
Right.
just the weird stuff on the air blowing out from the West Coast.
Oh, definitely smoke. The haziness.
Right, yeah. I had to close the window because it smelled so weird last night.
Really? I didn't even think about that.
Gmail. Go.
Definitely hazy.
Don't want to run a marathon in this.
I think I'm feeling the same thing. Like I sometimes feel in the spring when I've got a lot of allergies. I think I've been feeling like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I lost it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get rolling here. It's 7 o'clock. Shane's working his way into the room. Matt's, I'm not sure where, but hopefully he'll show up pretty soon. Oh, wait, phone's buzzing. Shane needs help.
Don't jump! Don't jump! So you can see me. It's so funny when I point at you, your ID still. Ah! You know they should have a feature. If you put your hand to your ear, everything's louder just temporarily. It's like no way. No, it should be a feature.
That would be
I agree,
hilarious.
that
They
should
should
be.
definitely do that.
That'd be a good
It
idea.
definitely should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially on the Quest. Quiet.
So quiet. They got all this potential. We got to
Quiet
crack this
Quest.
code.
Is that normal on a Quest? Is it quiet? Is it quiet Quest? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I would say the speaker volume doesn't get real loud. And if you have the strap angled and all, it can be pretty quiet if you don't have it directed kind of right into your ear.
Make it so if you twist your ears, volume goes up and down.
Yeah.
It,
Or tap your ears like your earbuds.
I forget how to turn on teleport. I can't. Oh, there it is. Oh, I figured it out.
Oh man, other times it's so easy to accidentally hop around a room. It's like I think one time the speakers were talking and I found myself like in the middle of the presentation. Pretty embarrassing. Kind of hilarious personally, but pretty embarrassing.
All right, how'd you do that? Oh, I got up there. I'm up here. I made it, everybody. I'm on top of the world.
Hey, Zach, I'll be right back in 2 minutes.
The good
If-
How'd you go
Yeah.
flying up again? Where are they?
Yeah, Patrick, wouldn't it be fun if we could sort of draw on his face right now for?
That's not very good. Don't do that.
No marker drawing.
Well, I don't know about you guys. But I'm gonna have a beer.
All right. Shane wasn't in the group list. He's not here. Let's try this.
Does this support hands?
At one point it did for the Leap motion sensor. It never has for Oculus.
That's too bad, because that would add a little bit of level of support for
Yeah.
hearing impaired or whatever.
It's just a lot more expressive too when we're kind of doing our mingle afterward.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose.
My
Zach,
hands are
you
over
gonna
there.
move behind the table when this all starts?
I don't know where I should go. I got a trough here I can hide in.
You could also stand behind the podium.
Yeah, I suppose the podium makes sense.
So, hey, did they remove the other? Isn't there like another screen back there when they were building the room? Is that still there, or did they fix or change the back area? You can get
There's still
lost
some
back
weird
there.
stuff back there. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just for
We're all
flavor.
drawing.
They have a green room.
Yeah, that's what they called it. Yeah, right.
Ooh, get a fan.
Suppose I could steal Matt's seat. He's not here. Here, I nominate myself as Matt. There we go. It's Shane. Here, let me put you on the cool people setting. All right. Is that working? Are you muted?
Nope. Can you hear me?
Yep. Cool. You think you'll be able to be here for a while? Is that
Yeah.
your schedule stuff? Okay.
Yep.
So what probably will work good is to give yourself a megaphone from the host tools panel on the lower right. There are microphones here, but they're kind of fiddly. And the host panel makes it kind of permanent. You don't have to think about it.
Did you
And so
turn
I'm
off
going to get
the,
rolling. I'm not sure what's going on with Matt.
fire?
Oh, here he comes. Good deal. Patrick, you here? Present. Okay, everybody, we're going to get rolling. Marty, you good with the with throwing microphones?
That's Patrick.
Marty, you good with the stream?
The stream is
set?
happening.
Okay, and you want me
Who's
over here, you
listening?
think? Doesn't matter.
Sure.
Okay.
Doesn't
Hey,
matter.
everybody. Welcome to MNVR and HCI. I know Mary said this is your first time. Anybody else here for the first time? We got some old experienced hands here. That's cool. So we meet every month, usually on the fourth Wednesday of the month. That whole plan I came up with falls apart a little bit here as we get to Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we'll probably do something on an odd cadence there, maybe a social event or something like that. Maybe we'll go hang out in rec room. And right off the bat, I got to apologize. Am I not loud? Or you're
You're not loud
fine.
enough for me.
Oh boy.
You're kind of
Oh,
soft.
yeah, there it is. All right, how's that? Good.
Better.
Oh yeah.
All right, sorry. This is tricky. In real life, if you can plug in an HDMI cable, we're good to go. But it's a little tricky here. So as we go, if you can't hear somebody, go ahead and let us know. We want questions as we go forward. We want to have this as a dialogue and a group discussion, not just a one-way people on the stage talking at you. And likewise, if you hear stuff you don't want to hear, let us know. It's hard if people have background noise. It can be hard for them to know what's coming through or not. And there can sometimes be a weird, either a feedback or kind of a buzzing sound that is actually feedback on a Quest that's trying to noise cancel itself. And that you absolutely can't hear, because when you're actually talking, it doesn't echo that back to you. So you're not aware if you're making background noises. So let us know. It's flexible. We got a nice small group. And if you are going to have some noise or wander around, you can always mute yourself right above the alt space menu. And probably one of us will do that as we go. And you got to tell us to unmute ourselves. And so I promised a rant. So we do have kind of a last minute change here. Kind of our main presentation was planned to be Brad Ellenboss talking about the giant orange dance machine. Unfortunately, our platform here, our venue, took out the web browsers that we'd been relying on for controlling slide presentations and also for viewing them. And so they're completely gone on PC because they've been having kind of some hacking problems or griefing or something. And unfortunately, it wasn't really announced well. After I knew exactly what to look for, I saw that it was on there, posted to their blog. But here in the application, like, it would have been nice to go into the presentation room and there'd be a little sticky note that says, hey, this doesn't work on PC. But instead it works on Quest. If you attend in a PC, with or without a VR headset, you see nothing. So that's not ideal. And our presenter was going to control it from a Vive. Brad was going to do that. So he could not control it and he could also not see it. So we're going to dig into that some more now that we know about it and have Brad back next month. There is kind of a substitute. It involves authoring your own JSON files, and it would involve snapshotting every one of his slides to an image and getting those into the JSON files. So, so we'll do that if we don't come up with something smarter in the next 4 to 5 weeks. We're also going to look at a couple other platforms to see if there's something that's good for slides and presentations. There are ones that are out there. They don't have this nice large attendance cap. So in here in this room, we can have, if we wanted to, we could have up to something like 60 people. I think our room is kind of set for 40 as a cap. So other ones are like 12 or 8, things like that. So not nearly enough. But or we'd have to do something clever, like run 2 rooms side by side or something. So that came out a lot less bitter than it felt this week. I am going to attend this wonderful event here in AltSpace. I think a week from today, the program manager for AltSpace that works at Microsoft will be hosting an event. So I'm going to ask some questions there.
Good.
Yeah, we'll see. It gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit, like maybe it's kind of underfunded or something. But at the least, they need a new communication channel. If they just want to set up an email list for event host, I think that could have fixed this. And we could have shared info with each other about how to work around it. So we'll get there. All right, somebody raised their hand. Who's got their hand up?
Hey, it's Mike. Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So
Go for it.
That was a quick question.
sorry.
Oh, did
it double clicked? But the other person can talk if they want to. I was asking it, but I was muted at the time I was asking.
Gotcha.
Essentially, you talked about room sizes and that this was set for about 40 people. But I've been noticing that whenever we're behind another person, their menu thing comes up and pretty much blocks the entire view. So you want to be kind of staggered vertically in addition to the horizontally. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. If you end up having a larger event, that people might need to kind of move themselves around just because of not just head space, but because of menu space.
Yeah, and you're talking about the name tags that pop up. if you hover on somebody.
Yeah, or if you're just behind them, and 2D interface, it just totally takes everything over. If you're just behind them, not even hovering or anything.
Yeah, for the
What
2D
day is that?
interface, how many people here are on a laptop or something in 2D? I see 2 sets of dead hands, 3. Yeah, there's some magic with maybe right-clicking and the escape key that you could try to make some of the menus not always be there. It's got a weird set of mode things going on in the 2D interface. And you can also do a right-click and drag to aim your face, which is not necessarily ideal. Way to work around that. But yeah, this is not perfect place for presentations, but right now it seems like it's the best place actually to still do this. And definitely kind of the mingling in VR with kind of spatial audio and a sense of hand gestures up to a certain point, and 3D depth is really nice when we kind of do a little mingling afterwards and tour the worlds. But so our normal thing here too is we aren't able to show any web pages today, but we let people plug stuff for the group, projects they're working on, or other events coming up. And Patrick had one this time that he wanted to talk about. Are you?
Yeah, I got one.
Loud?
I'm here.
Good and
Am I
loud.
loud? Am I
Go for
loud?
it.
I'm good and loud. Good and loud. Yeah. So, yeah, we don't have slides, which is kind of a bummer. But so I wanted to talk about a book that I contributed to. It's called 3D Disneyland, and the story about how I got involved with the book is actually kind of interesting because I heard the author on a podcast. There's a podcast called Connecting with Walt, which is like a very lovely Disney history podcast. And there was an author on there, this guy named Dave Bossert, who he used to work for Disney as an effects animator. So he worked on Nightmare Before Christmas and like every Disney movie in the 90s. And then he went off and started writing books. And so if you're a Disney history buff, his website, Old Mill Press, is actually really interesting. He's got some cool stuff on Oswald the Rabbit. And the interview I was listening to, he was talking about this book he was writing about Kim Weber furniture, which is like mid-century furniture that Walt Disney had designed for the studio, because there wasn't, they wanted like a thing where you could put your cigarette, and they wanted a drawer to hold a bottle of scotch, and like all these like very specific requests. And there wasn't any furniture that really fit an animator's style. And so this company put together this furniture specifically for Walt Disney. Anyway, so so I thought, okay, this is a really interesting interview. At the end of the interview, they said, "What are you working on next?" And he mentioned this book on 3D Disneyland. And for those of you who know me, I think most of them, the room do. If you don't, I've been a hobbyist stereo photographer for probably 12 years now, and just had a lot of experience with it, and a Disney fan. And so I emailed him and just said, "Hey, I heard you work on this book, on this podcast. If you want any help with it, happy to help out. Here's a link to a bunch of photos that I've done over the years." And he replied back like, "Yeah, we don't have a plan for this, or this. Would love your involvement." And so I started working with him to take these vintage photos that were shot with a stereo camera 3 days after Disneyland opened in the 50s. So this guy that he knew, who had also been an animator, had been at Disneyland in 1955, and then in the 60s, and then back in the 80s. And he'd just taken all these stereo photos over the years. And so he had all these really cool vantage points of rides that don't exist anymore. And he sent me all these stereo slides. And so I did cleanup on them and formatted them for red and cyan anaglyphs for the print. And then I happened to also be taking a trip to Disneyland right around the same time. So this was in February of 2018. And so I asked Dave, I said, "Hey, I'm going to be at Disneyland. I'm taking my camera. If there's anything that you need a shot of to fill in gaps, let me know." So he gave me some suggestions, sort of like very generously said, "Oh, sure, if you want to collect," because it's, it wasn't a modern day photo book, but there were some gaps in the book. So I got photos of the things he was looking for. And then I just took like dozens more and sent them to him and said, hey, you feel free to use any of these if you want to fill any gaps. And he ended up picking about 15 of my photos for the book. And so it's all of this guy, Ted Kierske's photos, vintage. And then everywhere there's a gap, it's one of my photos, which is like a kind of a dream come true for me. And then toward the end of the project, he said, we really need some pictures of Walt in there. And can we convert some into stereo? And I spend most of my day in Photoshop anyway. And I said, well, sure, let's give it a try. And so he licensed a couple of really high resolution images from Getty Images of Walt Disney in the 50s. And then I spent about a day each on them, turning them into generating a left and a right eye to create a stereo pair, and was really proud of how they turned out. And so those are the bookends for the book. And so I haven't seen the actual book itself. It's supposed to ship pretty soon. He sent me a PDF a few months ago of like a test, like a test print that that needed some changes then, and I sent some notes back, and but it had the foreword in it, and the foreword was written by Tom Morris, who designed the Disneyland Paris castle and is credited for making the Cars Land design work at California Adventure. So he's a sort of a legendary Imagineer, and he's in the Imagineering story and these different documentaries. So he's one of the more famous Imagineers. He did the introduction or the foreword for this book, and did a little call out to all the contributors, including me. And so I was like, oh my God, I don't, so I'm out. That's it. I'm done. Anyway, so it was just it's a kind of a dream project to be a part of, just to help out in a little bit, and then to end up getting some of my photos included in this thing was really kind of a, like I said, it's kind of a dream come true project. So anyway, so you can check it out at Old Mill Press is his website, and 3D Disneyland is the name of the book.
Looks like it's a little cheaper there. It's also on Amazon, if that's how you roll.
Yeah, it's a pretty expensive book. I know he's doing a thing now where if you order it directly from his website, the first 750 copies, he'll sign them, and Ted, who did the photos from the 50s, he'll sign it. But anyway, big coffee table.
When we meet in real life, then Patrick will sign it too.
That's right. I'll just sign every page, though. It won't be worth anything after that. I'll render it worthless.
Are you able to get into your seat over there?
What's the book called again?
3D Disneyland.
3D Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it colon as you've never seen it, something like that?
Yeah. And honestly, like, it's really interesting because these photos, there's so many of these vantage points that really are kind of unique and cool that when he first sent me the slides, I was looking at these things like, oh my God, like I'm holding government secrets. No one has seen these before. Photos of the castle from certain angles with the grass isn't growing in yet. And,
cool.
Just really, really cool, history archive.
Wow, congratulations. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
mixed in with a bunch of my junk. Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any other plugs or upcoming events we want to tell the group about? Otherwise, we'll jump right in. Okay.
Can I plug Thrive?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Marty wants to plug that.
Let me see if I can make them loud. Give me 1 second.
I was excited to hear you plug it.
Well, yeah, no.
My
You gotta set it up.
Hey, Marty, do the hand raise thing so I can practice this
Okay.
on the lower right.
Raise it.
All right, hang on. There it is. It notified me. Marty is loud.
I'm louder. Yay! Woo! So yeah, the Thrive is like in people's hands now. I think Patrick's one of them. And
Haven't gotten mine
it's
yet.
like a physical game that is being shipped to people, and I'm still working on the digital version. It is on test flight, so if you want to try it out, Android build floating around somewhere. It's got
The
some AR,
digital
so it's
version's
even
great.
relevant to this talk or to this
Yeah, it
meeting.
has an AR version. And if they wanna learn all about it, where would that video be archived? Say.
I mean, it's on our YouTube. It's on the IGDA YouTube. I did the IGDA talk this month about it, and so it's on IGDA. Ugh, man, we don't have a good short URL for YouTube, but we should make one off the IGDA TC website, but we have not. But you can go to IGDA slash like connect and find a link to the YouTube from there.
Yep.
Otherwise, like my Twitter. My blog. It's on my blog, chestress.com.
Yeah. And it's probably still on Twitch, right, for a certain amount of time?
That's a good question. I think so.
Yeah.
It's only 2 weeks, so actually it might be on today.
Okay. So igdatc.org is where you can link to the YouTube channel. It's probably the easiest.
And
Yes?
what's his Twitter handle?
Ooh, it's
What's your Twitter?
LIVINGTECH.
Great. All right, you don't get to be loud anymore. I'm an expert.
I like
Oh,
loud
somebody else raised their hand. This is going to get tedious. All right. Any other plugs? Anybody gone? It's worth mentioning too. So what's this IGDATC thing that Mary hasn't heard about? It's the International Game Developers Association Twin Cities chapter. This VR and HCI group is a spinoff from that. The IGDATC has been around forever and ever and ever. I don't remember what the first year was. Does anybody? Long time. And this group kind of spun out of there in 2013. So we still share infrastructure. You might have noticed that on Eventbrite. If you bought a ticket for this, you'll get invited to the next IGDATC event in 3 weeks. That's always on the second Wednesday of the month. But don't unsubscribe because that's bad, you'll start missing out on our invite if you unsubscribe.
Our history says our first meeting was in 2004.
Yeah. Wow. Forever and ever. Yeah,
Wow.
It's changed hands many times.
That is.
So maybe we'll keep rolling on. Patrick almost introduced himself, so you can just add the part of you that does VR and AR stuff, maybe. And we'll move down the line.
Yeah, my name is Patrick. You can go to my website, puzzlefox.com, and that's it. Boom!
What do
I
you
got an
do?
explosion.
What do you do with AR and VR there, fella?
So we do we do a lot of client work for training and development stuff. We do marketing material. We worked with HBO last year on Watchmen to do a promotion for Watchmen for an augmented reality installation that took place in Times Square. I'll be talking about that one till I'm dead, so it won't be the last you hear about it. Yeah, so we're working with an industrial printer company who makes printers for banks and like ID badges to do a cool AR app for them so that you can, since you can't do trade show stuff right now, we used to do a lot more trade show content. So the trade show clients have transitioned over into augmented reality mobile apps and other game software that we did for companies that would normally be held in person have transitioned over into online games. So we're just trying to stay relevant during COVID. And every time I do a thumbs up, this microphone pops into my hand.
Next up is Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. That's it. That's the tweet.
Come on now.
Come on, Matt.
You can do it.
I work at Pixel Farm. I'm a senior developer there, and we do VFX and AR and VR and all the Rs, the XRs, and video editing. And we have a stage that we haven't used in months because we can't get people in there because of COVID. Yeah, and everybody is doing everything virtual now, so it's crazy.
And if there's any hardware of any kind, Matt probably bought one. So just ask
Especially
him how it
weird
is.
stuff.
Yeah,
Except
Weird stuff.
I won't buy the new Leap Motion because the licensing is garbage.
It's very expensive.
Well,
I hope
I
you're not
mean
in
the
Quest.
original one was $90 or something, so it's double that. But the problem is that you basically can't use it for public demonstration purposes unless you buy a license from them for it. So it's kind of
What about virtual public demonstrations? Because COVID, you know.
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Cool. Next up is RJ. You might be muted.
Hi, I'm
And-
RJ.
Hold up. You got a megaphone after you unmute.
Okay, am I megaphone right now?
Yeah,
I
here's
can
here,
hear
RJ.
RJ.
Excellent.
Hello. Let me try to.
I think you're good.
You're good.
All right, is that better?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Even better.
Okay. Yep, I'm
Super good.
RJ. I work at Ready Set VR, based out of Wisconsin, doing retail virtual reality software. But on the side, I like to make games for the Oculus Quest headset. I made like this kind of dungeon crawler sort of game called Sunshard that I'm working on right now. That's been approved for the Quest store, so that's kind of my pet project. I kind of just work away on every once in a while. So
And it's looking pretty awesome. We gotta once we figure out how to show a
Mhm.
video clip, we gotta show some more clips in here. Once life is back to semi-normal. Next up in line here, we got Shane. And you might have to megaphone. You can just check your left menu to see if it's on or off.
Looks like I'm megaphoned. Hi, I'm Shane.
Shane's-
I'm a professional, very tall person. And I also do AR and VR development for United Health Group or Optum, a big healthcare-based company in the Twin Cities. And although I'm really more technical artist, kind of generalist, more arty than the rest of the programmers up here.
Cool. And Mark, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay? All right.
Yep.
Mark Jensen, Chief Innovation Officer at Space 150. We're an agency, kind of a tech-fueled creative agency based in Minneapolis, New York, and LA. I'm in Minneapolis. We used to host this event at our office, which has now been fully remodeled. So whenever we get back to physical virtual meetings, it'll be nice and shiny and new and cool. I'm focused on the last year and a half, I think, since the release of the Quest has been on VR products for our clients around the architecture and design space. And then we also do a lot of just fun marketing stuff with it. So we helped launch the most recent Call of Duty season, the Call of Duty Warzone season, did some really interesting AR interactions and sites and a bunch of lenses and things like that for them and Nike and other clients. So it's a combination of kind of product development and then really fun marketing stuff. And we do a lot in the AI space too. So we've got some fun stuff. We're very close to launching there that I'll probably share next time.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I'm going to kind of moderate the panel here. We're just going to try to hit a little bit on each one of the topics. One of the things we wanted to cover really fast, because it's vaguely relevant, but there's not a lot of detail that's new. There was an Apple conference just, a week before the Oculus event, the Facebook event. And what's the VR and AR parts that came out of that? Does anybody have a good summary?
It was literally the
Yeah, I
day
can-
before.
The thumbs down is the summary. That's how I felt. Mark, you
Yeah,
had
I
a
would
little bit of
say-
detail.
AR kind of thing.
Yeah, I think what
It was
happened
less
is
than a footnote.
Blood pressure.
there's
No
more
blood
AR in the
oxygen.
announcement of it than there was in it.
Yeah. Oh, they had a really cool AR widget on their email announcement that went out.
Yep.
That was cool.
I think one of the things. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I would say normally Apple has an event that would have been at that time where they launched the new phones, so that's been delayed. But the interesting part is they launched iOS 14, which has ARKit 4 built into it. So even though the phones with the new sensors, the LiDAR sensor aren't out yet, the iPad Pro is. So that is officially out in the wild. I think it's maybe worth mentioning a few of the things there. So they have, and again, mobile AR is just a stepping stone to the ultimate future, right, of glass and headset-based AR. But they did launch ARKit 4, and I think things to call out would be they are launching location anchors. So it's built off Apple Maps, and you can laugh at that as not Waze or Google, but it is getting better. And location anchors basically allow you to say the phone will figure out where in the world you are via GPS, and then computer vision will figure out what direction you're looking. So Snap has similar things, and it's a thing that's going to become pretty ubiquitous. And the example app they give you in the SDK is about mapping. So it's like little blue dots over a street, which is the first kind of obvious use case I think for that. And I mentioned the LiDAR scanner, and everything points to the high-end phones having the built-in LiDAR scanner. And I'm curious if anyone here has an iPad Pro, the 2020 model. Has anyone tried that out? I'm assuming Matt's got one. Couple. Have you tried out any of the point cloud or like scene analysis stuff? It's pretty amazing. It's amazing how fast it works. And to me, it feels like we've gone from weird AR specialty hardware into this is the phone you'll have in your pocket doing this stuff. Zach, you and I have talked about that if you have anything to add on that, but it's pretty amazing just to have in the phone that everyone will have in the future,
Yeah, and they kind of already did it once when they first released ARKit. They said, "Oh yeah, and it's going to work on the things we've released the past 2 years." And Google's like, "We did AR also, and it works on 3 phones that are brand new." So Apple kind of has been doubling down on that, and they announced their new chip. Was the only thing I took away from the event.
That's true.
That didn't make me angry, and it's got even more custom, hardware for kind of AI and different kinds of image analysis and computer vision stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also they're even ahead of Intel and AMD on their manufacturing process. So when it gets in the phone with the LiDAR, it should be pretty powerful, and maybe even the battery will last a while.
Yeah, and I think to that point too, I think the last thing is with ARKit 4, they also released a bunch of new vision frameworks. So computer vision is a pretty common thing we see all over the place, but they've got now things specifically in there to detect, human body poses and hand poses, and those are going to be important things for interactions with AR. And I think when we talk about the Quest 2, Apple and their custom ARM chips, I think in terms of power consumption and power output, they're the leader in the world right now. When you think about the Quest 2 and what it's capable of, it's going to be interesting to see when Apple releases their kind of headset and then glasses, how powerful those are. So again, we don't know, it's conjecture, but all signs point to that being pretty solid. Yeah, that's
Well,
about
let me
it, I
get
think.
my
Hopefully we'll have another event here soon with phones where we'll find out more of that stuff.
Yeah, that's really why I was so disappointed. I was hoping there'd be a LiDAR phone coming out of that.
Yeah. There will be, sounds like in late October, early November.
Question for you guys. The email that got sent out, was that related to LiDAR, or what was cool about the email that was sent out?
Oh, they just had it was just like the announcement, and it had a little like an Apple logo, and then you could click a button to look at that logo as a 3D model, and you could view it in AR. And so it was like this sort of like it was like this like wormy kind of like path tracing
illusion,
sort
right?
of like it was like turned from an Apple logo into the date 9/13 of the event. So it was kind of a cool animation that they had turned into an AR widget. And it's cool, to see I always like to check out their latest AR web stuff, just to see if they're trying anything new. And I did notice what was really nice about it too was it was this really strange animation, but it had a nice shadow underneath it. It was this very soft, obviously like pre-rendered animation of the shadow itself. That was like a flat plane. But I did notice that, if you moved it over to the table edge, that shadow would just keep going off the edge of the table. So, they're not perfect either.
One small detail on that is the shadows the shadows are generated in real time for the devices that support it. And with
wow.
the LiDAR sensor, they won't have to have the shadow on the table. So it's all going to come together for next year's event.
Crazy.
Well,
Look pre-rendered. That's amazing.
Were people talking about LiDAR for this next phone coming up in October, November? Do we have any
Yes.
confidence on that? Or are you saying next year, like
No,
next fall?
this year's phone. All the rumors
In a
point
month.
to that LiDAR sensor being on the phone this fall in the Pro models. Yep.
Wow.
I've been seeing that since last year.
I would bet $20 that it comes out this fall. That'd be my guess. I think it's pretty credible, the rumors at this point. Or a 6-pack or something like that.
You take
You guys
yours?
hear Mark okay? He sounds a little bit echoey to me. I'm just curious. You guys all hear him? Good.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
He sounds a little echoey.
He does sound a little echoey. Yep.
Okay. We are
I don't know
currently
if there's
remodeling a room, so it's empty, so it's echoey. So I sound like I'm probably in the bathroom, which I'm not, I assure you. Okay. Maybe I'll
You've
talk
been in there a
more.
long
Put the
time.
microphone right against your mouth. Breathe
We
into
hear
the
a
mic.
flush. We
I
don't.
figured you were on like
What's that running water?
a railway train or something.
Flush.
Okay. Moving along. Focus.
We're never getting out of this room.
I kind of wrote down a set of topics and ran it by folks, just make sure I didn't miss anything. We'll kind of take this loosey-goosey, but feel free to ask questions at any time. And I'll just let you know real quick kind of the things we're going to talk about. So you know what's coming up, and you're not asking like about Quest 2 lenses while we're busy talking about development software, because then we'll talk about it later. So at kind of the event, this is now the Oculus Connect 7, rest in peace, now Facebook Connect event. We're going to talk about the event in general. We're going to talk about the Quest 2 launch and the hardware and what we learned about it. We're going to talk about all the AR stuff that Facebook brought up, because I think they're feeling pressure from Apple. And I mean, to be honest, they're investing $16 billion a year in R&D. So they need to show something to their shareholders. Talk about OS changes on the existing Quest, and I guess by extension, the Quest 2. Oculus for Business. It's probably a narrower interest to most people here, but there's a couple of unique things that are worth hearing about. And what's changing with the Oculus Store and distribution this year and next year, early next year, and then development changes and tools. And I had something else in here. Oh yeah, just kind of random stuff from the keynote that maybe was of interest. And you guys will probably end up shouting over each other a lot here up on the panel, but does anybody want to just start with kind of their biggest highlight from the entire event, and also the kind of their impressions of how the event went? So it wasn't smooth, it wasn't seamless having an online event. It never is. Anybody?
Venue sucked. That's
Could you elaborate?
quote me on that. So we tried to like get together in venues, because that was kind of the point, right? To sit in the venue as friends, be social.
Yep.
And you could sort of be in a group generally in the lobby, but as soon as you went to a room, you got randomly assigned. So you couldn't, like, the people you were with were completely in different spots. So that felt kind of broken. The video was different too. Like if you were in like the normal public venues, there was people all around you talking and all that kind of stuff. And none of these people are people that you were with, because there wasn't the ability to do that at the state of the current venues. And we were in the beta venues too, not the current live version of venues. So it was supposed to be more social. It has the new avatars and things like that. And so it was interesting, but it felt lots of broken. And I lament with Carmack and his talk of how the social features are lacking during the current times on their platform. But I ended up just going to solo mode, because then I was by myself and I didn't have to worry about other people doing anything. And then we were just in a party, on the Quest, so we could all talk to each other. We just couldn't see each other. So we got to like make each other laugh and talk about the oohs and ahs of everything that we were seeing, but it was like not through what we were expecting in terms of methods. But I don't know.
Did everybody like the video quality as much as I did in venues too?
Yeah, it seemed good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
What venues one left?
It was good quality.
Yeah,
I was in the old venues as well.
you were too.
Yeah, but I was only in there for a little bit because you can't do the party line conversation while you're in the old venues. And so I ended up watching on my laptop screen with the Quest on top of my head so I could still talk to you guys. But it was like the world's heaviest like phone sitting on my head. It was really bad, actually. So
yeah, I had all these high hopes, and I got everybody to believe in me, and they were daft. Thought it was gonna be a lot of fun.
And it didn't take long either. It was maybe 10 minutes in, and we were all like, "So yeah, solo mode."
It was like we didn't launching venues. It was like, oh yeah, it was loading.
And there's even stuff in the menus that's like, invite your friend to this event, and you click it, and it's like, oh, sorry, this event's full. And then eventually, towards the end, it wasn't full. So then you clicked it, and they'd be like, all right, come and just be in the same room as you, and they'd be assigned to a different random room. And so you couldn't see them. But
So
I
what
did
was
win the
the
lottery on one of those instances. I got assigned to a random room that had John Carmack in it, and there was the usual tribal circle around John Carmack, just like in real life, of people asking questions and him just talking endlessly. That's how you knew it wasn't John Carmack impersonator. It was his voice, and he could talk endlessly without breathing about any technical topic.
There's
at one point he looked
evidence
around
of
and he's
that
like,
on
I wonder if anybody wanted to actually hear the presentation, and nobody said they did, so he just kept talking.
I was gonna say there's documented evidence on Twitter of Zach in the room
That's
with
right.
Carmack.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, no, there isn't of that incident because the photo app, the Oculus OS level photo app, doesn't work right in venues too either. So there is my picture of my controllers,
don't they? Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily on purpose. I think they're doing a lot of very interesting things with time warp layers for scalability in there.
Okay.
Did
you saw the retweet that I sent you where it was someone else who was there, took a picture, and you're in the background?
That was from Horizon. Yeah, that was the other weird thing. That was kind of the after event.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good segue for no good reason. So once to describe Horizon, it's currently in beta, and hopefully will come out of beta very soon for the Quest 2 launch. I would imagine.
Talk about that a little bit. The one thing I was going to say too about the Connect conference was that I didn't know much going into it how they were going to do this, but part of me was hoping that there would be some sort of new virtual conferencing technology that they would have baked into it, like instead of just being inside of a small private theater room looking at a giant video, it would have been cooler if they had like avatars walking around doing things, or maybe didn't have pre-recorded video. The video was beautiful, but they had some kind of corny jokes that I don't know if that was really translated well, being pre-recorded. But so I mean, I understand that there's probably too many things to go wrong to try to push the envelope too much on that, but I was hoping to see something like that. But anyway, as far as Horizon,
what app did they use?
so it's all in venues.
Venues?
Yeah, venues is, we didn't explain it. Venues is the Oculus app for watching concerts and comedy shows and that kind of thing.
So like, what this is right now is probably more immersive than that, because if you could imagine just being in like what feels like a movie theater, and then there's just a giant screen in front of you with this gorgeous post-production, like color keyed up tuned video, and there's just randos around you babbling while you're watching this video. So like what we're doing here is a lot more, I would say, immersive than that. But we're not trying to broadcast to millions of people either. So, but yeah, they'd sent out, and I don't know if you guys got this, but they'd sent out a survey afterwards asking, for feedback on what people thought of Horizons, and one of the questions that they asked at least once, maybe twice, was how immersive was this? How much did it feel like you were really at a conference? And it's like, well, not much at all when it's just a video, but still, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was still interesting. The content carried it for sure, I would say. So.
Then you're gonna
But
say
yeah,
a
as
little
far as,
about Horizon.
yeah, as far as Horizon, that they had teased that a year ago at the actual physical conference OC6, and I think I'm trying to remember what we thought of it at the time, but it kind of seemed like it was a little bit of like a implied groan in the audience because they had, what was the social platform du jour at that time that they had just bailed on, that they had developed? Was it the Rooms or something?
Yeah, Oculus Rooms for the Go, I think was the
Yeah.
last one. Yeah.
So
And they did have a demo of that there at the same time, which was
Okay.
interesting.
yeah, so
Or the
I mean, it's
successor to that, or whatever it was.
I don't know that like I'm reminded now of some of the marketing, like the video that they used to tease that a year ago, and it seemed like they were it was this real nice sort of family friendly, like VR for moms kind of a thing is the vibe that I got from it. But it was interesting to finally actually try it, because we attended OC6 in person last year. We were, I guess, sort of one of the first lists of beta invites to go out. So we were able to try it a little bit and at first it was super confusing. My first experience was jumping into a session with Zach and Matt where they had already had some familiarity with it, and they had opened up this like a scenario where you could, it was like an example of how to make a multiplayer game, which I guess I should back up and say kind of at a high level what it is. So the way I understand it is it's basically like a social gathering place in VR, that has all the stuff you want for, like, you know, joining up with your friends and inviting them places. But it's I don't know how to, like, if there's probably a comparison.
Very close to Rec Room, I think.
Yeah, but the difference seems to be that all of the content there is user generated. So
Yeah.
I don't think that they have any like curated or you know, sort of like featured content that comes from them, or, you know, that they would hire out that I know of. But I think they tell you when you first come in that like everything here was created by Horizon users, and every person that you see here is a real person. So they try really hard to get people to be kind to each other and all of that. But so basically, it's just this this like weird VR sort of like you know, whimsical world where you can just wander around and like try different things that people have made. And so general premise of it is you've got a bunch of like primitive shapes that you can use to like assemble things. So you could assemble a platformer game with your own level design. You could assemble like a little pig or a sheep using cones and cylinders and painting them different colors and sort of like sticking them and gluing them together. And then you can also provide interactivity with those experiences and some of those objects. And this weird sort of abstracted scripting thing where you're dragging like parts of coding statements together to like make a complete coding statement, and then you can grab references to variables and plug them in, and so we spent a little bit of time playing around with that. I haven't gone through the tutorial thing. It was just kind of like diving right in, trying to figure some things out. But with Zach and Matt and I think we spent 2 or 3 hours in there and just trying to figure it out and reverse engineer it, rather than, you know, like reading the manual or whatever the equivalent would be. But I mean, to its credit, that we did have fun. We had lots of laughs and made some really silly things. So we just went into the starter world, and one of the things that I did was take every like pine tree in the horizon and make it dance and animate. So like you can just like put an object into record mode, grab it, and then go, and then it'll just do that forever. And so all the trees were like jumping around and dancing and bouncing, They had one
It was
tree that was like
dangerous.
a rocket that would fly through the air, and do its little thing all the time. And so after like an hour, it was total insanity world, where like there's just banana stuff going on everywhere. And so, but we had a lot of laughs just trying to figure it out and getting silly with it. And then, but I think one of the testaments to or to its credit, it was that when we were done, I think Zach, you might have mentioned, or maybe it was you, Matt, that like, oh my gosh, it's been like 3 hours. That didn't feel like 3 hours. So
Yeah, my headset shut off after 2 hours. I'm like, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah,
Plug it
Shane and
back
I
in.
were in there. Shane and I were in there mid animation, goofing off, and then Zach just disappeared. We're like, "Yep, his battery went dead." Yeah, I'm gonna text in like 2 minutes to watch, and sure enough, battery's dead. You gotta play with your
Yeah.
link cable on,
It does have a
It's
PC release.
something.
I don't think any of us have tried it yet, but that might help
Yeah.
the scripting.
I think
But
one of
yeah,
my
I
takeaways.
encourage. Go ahead.
I just say one of my takeaways is that so it's all in app creation down to the programming, and a lot of that is really cool, but it's also really tedious. And so like on the programming side, we started out on the there is currently, as much as I've been able to find, no manual anywhere. The closest thing I think is there's a community group for it, and I looked in there and I didn't see any kind of like text or text tutorials or images or videos or anything. So the closest thing to instructions is that there are template worlds that you can clone. So you can go through the documentation there and be like, there's a world that's like intro to scripting, and you basically it makes a copy of it under your account, and then you can add collaborators. So like Zach and I added ourselves as collaborators together on a world. And so you basically have this copy of this world that's set up with a certain amount of interactions set up. And one of them was like, they set it up like it was like a magic show. And you literally, to advance the slides, you had to pick up a magic wand and slap like a button with it. And then it would, walk you through the steps of like, if you want to see how this works now, click this button. And they had built these UI interfaces that were images, and it doesn't really support images in like the normal sense. You can't upload anything, or so what they had done is it has like a selfie cam, and they like stacked a bunch of primitives together and then like took a screenshot of it with a selfie cam, and then like made that into like a prefab object. And then what they do is they would store it really, really high up in the world, and when you would hit the button, it would just like spawn into place. So that's like how they were getting, doing all these tutorial screens. In the tutorial world that Shane and Zach and I were working on the other day, they didn't try and hide them. They just had them placed in the world essentially as like physical objects that had like images and text on them. But like in the first person shooter example, which is super complicated, when you turn on edit mode, there's just like probably 100 or so objects floating in the air that are invisible, and there's just lines zipping back and forth between this whole court. So it's like, a room three times the size of this room, where there's an object right here and there's a wire like, a football field away. And to get to there, you can like scale yourself up to giant size. So then you have to move over to where the connection is, and it just seems like if you're doing anything complicated, it would be super tedious.
Yeah,
it's
I
cool,
agree that
but
it's not good, especially for people that have used real creation tools and programming. It feels so slow.
The code side of it is a combination of so like on the code panel or the inspector panel, when you define like a variable, there's like an input and an output, and to connect them together, you have to like grab the plug and drag it and plug it into the other one. And as far as logic goes, it's a visual coding. So you open up a panel, and it's like the Google, what was it called? Google had their like, programming for kids kind of thing, where it's like logic blocks.
Reminds me of Scratch. That's not Google, but
yeah, it's like Scratch.
Tool.
So you have this list of like event, like you drag out an event that's like on application start, and then you drag out like a play sound block, and you slap that in there, and then it has a variable that's like action. You got to find an action and plug it in there. And so that you're basically doing a combination of that for your logic layouts, and then you're defining variables that you're plugging into those things, and then you're connecting these objects with physical connections throughout the entire world. And so it's the combo of that. And then you're typing currently. Zach tried typing on a keyboard. I don't know how well that went for him, but
Didn't work
the
on
default
Quest.
is the default is you're typing with a virtual keyboard with your pointer fingers inside of the tool. So it's again just super tedious for anything complicated. We did play there was that game that we played that was user generated. It's called The Handle. And Zach and I went through that thing in it was probably 30-40 minutes of going through. So it's like sort of like a puzzle / escape the room.
Yeah,
and
good.
that was the first thing that we played before we tried to figure out how any of it worked. And we walked away from that really impressed, or at least I did. I'm not sure what Zach sort of, I think you were impressed. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say anything
but
that's
basically-
heavy on the social interactions and light on the fast gameplay is what'll do well.
And then I think it
And that
fit
worked.
that bill. And
Yeah.
so basically there was this handle you could pick up, and this is just one of the example worlds you can just go in. So next time you're in there, it's at the end of one of the main paths, and it's just called The Handle. And you zone in, and it's like an instance, so it could already be in progress when you start, and so you either have to catch up to the people who are in it, or you can reload into a fresh instance and just be in there from the beginning with whoever you're with, and then also random people get added to it later, because the room system will just fill people in for content. We ended up probably 90% of the content we did, and there wasn't anyone else in there. And then some rando came in at the end and kind of just was annoying. But so one of the things in that room is like an astrolabe, where there's just like this planetarium kind of style thing, and and you have this crank in your hand, and you have to like collect all the planets and put them back into their positions. And when you turn the crank, parts of the room rotate. So if anyone knows Zach and his sensitivity to VR motion sickness, I of course voted him as the person to stand out on the platform, so I turned the crank, and it was semi-entertaining through that process.
It was
So
worth
we made
it,
all the
but
way
I got
through.
pretty sweaty.
Yeah, we made it all through, and at the end it was like, this was interesting, and I could see like, if this is the style of content that can be created with it, it's pretty cool. But again, once we figured out the process of doing it, we were like, what we want is a desktop tool. We can use a keyboard and do all this tedious stuff in a way that's just not in this spatialness, because it's too much work. It feels like it's going to take 4 times longer than it would take to do it with desktop tools.
Yeah. Whether or not you're into the experiences there, I encourage everybody to try the simultaneous editing. It's just pretty magical. I don't know that there's another tool out there that lets you zoom back and forth between editing and playtesting, and it's really pretty seamless, and it doesn't crash for a long time. It took, I don't know, an hour before I had a problem. But as a person editing the world, you can grow and shrink the world or yourself really easily, and you do it all the time. As the player, you're at the normal size, so you can have yourself standing there and you're looking at a Shane head that's sticking out of the ground, and it's a mile across, and he's working on some trees, and it's pretty great. And the voice chat continues the whole time. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out the building tools. You can do the modeling, you can do the animation, which is great. You can record your own sounds, and maybe some light scripting. It gets slow after, hit this to trigger this. That's all fine and fast. And once you see the FPS games, that's ridiculous.
It's currently on Quest and Rift platform. So you can do that, but you have to get an invite to the current beta, and there's on the webpage for Horizons you can sign up for that. They did, I believe, Shane had mentioned, send out early invites to the people who attended Oculus Connect last year.
And RJ, you were at Oculus Connect 6. Are you still live? Did you try Horizon at all?
Yeah, I've tried Horizon a little bit solo. I was kind of just going through the PvP template world a little bit, like you guys were talking about. Yeah, it's super freaking complicated. yeah, I kind of came to the conclusion that at least for developing anything that I felt like serious about, like actually publishing and having people actually play and enjoy, it wouldn't personally be worth it just because like at my level of like program knowledge, I feel like I could just take what I know, take that logic, put it in Unity, and make just something I can distribute to everybody instead of just inside Horizon. But
Yep,
for
yep.
people who are learning programming, especially visually, I think it could be a great tool. And like you guys said, I'm guessing it's a heck of a lot of fun just doing that multi-user editing stuff. So I see a lot of value in that. But definitely, just as a solo creator, it could probably get really just tough on the eyes and the head, just being in VR, having to do all that, and then also just the time cost sort of value just not
I
being
think
there.
for some simple things, like if you made checkers or just like party games that were super simple, it's still really entertaining to be with a group of people and do that kind of stuff. And it wouldn't take that much. You're providing the mechanism to move pieces, so you're not having to write a lot of logic. And it was pretty simple to make things that you could attach to your head or to parts of your body. We experimented with that quite a bit. And so I think if it was just like a place to hang out and do simple stuff like that, it works great for that, I think. Once you start to do anything complicated, it starts to get really good.
Yeah, basic physics, and yeah, I forgot about that. Attaching stuff to your head and your body. That was fun for a while. Okay. Any other questions on Horizon before we move on? Next, probably big topic is I would say the Quest 2. Somebody want to kick that off? What is the Quest 2?
You should there.
It has 3 IPD adjustments.
Yes, it does.
Does it really?
So it
It's
has
a very hands-on adjuster.
it has they removed the variable IPD adjustment and they replaced it with 3 set positions. So it basically is set to fill in the majority of IPDs from 3 distinct positions. But it's not, they did that to reduce cost, basically, to get rid of the mechanical elements. They went to a single LCD screen instead of 2 separate OLED screens. And so the eyepiece mechanism, there's a notch inside of the headset. So you have to take it off your head, and inside there's a switch. And you can also soft push the lenses to the left and right slightly to adjust it as well. It'll be interesting to see if somebody like Zach, who has, challenge with current headsets, especially ones that don't have IPD, right? If it has a good enough sweet spot for him to use, and other people who are maybe in the smaller size or the bigger size of IPD measurements.
I can't
did
even use the Rift S because of that. Sorry.
I did pre-order from Best Buy, who takes returns.
I have the Rift S, and I didn't have any problems with it. I don't know that you ever tried it, at least not mine. Zach.
I don't think so.
I have the Rift S. I did not like it. I gave it away.
So that had software IPD, which doesn't really help you if your eyes don't fit in the lenses. This physically moves. It's just a simpler mechanism, and I'm assuming it, although I don't know for sure, but the screen is actually a weird resolution, and they are most likely using parts of it based on where the adjustment is set to for the IPD. So it is a combination of software and mechanical. So when you actually flip it, the screen, you can see the screen turn black and then it redraws. So it is adjusting itself. It's not just trying to make image juicing and the screen move slightly to accommodate for IPD. So I can't remember the number they spat out, but it was 85%, something like that. It was big-ish, but it wasn't as big as I was hoping it to be.
85% of what?
Kind of breaking up a little bit.
IPDs would be supported in the range of that they're providing. So they did not say everyone. That's an interesting point. So that's still an advantage that Quest 1 has over Quest 2. But Quest 2 has a lot of other advantages. Increased resolution. It's 50% more pixels than Quest 1.
90 hertz refresh rate later on.
That bugged me, and I posted about that in the game dev Slack. Is that they kept talking about how it's 90 hertz eventually. You know, games that ship on launch date are probably going to still run at 72. There's not going to be any big benefits, in terms of comfort that higher refresh rates give. It's limited, probably initially at least, to just system apps. So like Oculus browser and like the main UI will run at 90. And then eventually they're trying to make it be launch ready for developers to support it, but they haven't said 100% that's going to be the case. But it will require every developer to recompile their app to enable 90 hertz. So it'll be a mixed bag, of experiences then basically when it does ship initially.
Did they say it was you have to recompile? Did they say that for sure?
That's what I believe. It had to be developer enabled. So I would assume that is a setting in the manifest.
Okay.
So if you have fancy tools to rebuild the app without doing a recompile, modify the manifest, you potentially could do that. But for most
I can imagine a lot of stuff could break if they just start running it at 90. If you've optimized your app for 72.
And that's the case.
Steam VR does that though.
Yeah, it's PC. What
like,
are you gonna
hey guy, you're at 45 now.
Yeah, it's a computer.
Program for
You get what you get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quest is a console, man.
They did say that Quest 1 apps will be automatically up-res, and it'll turn off the fixed foveated rendering.
Really?
Yeah.
So are the requirements for developing for the Quest 2 a little looser just because it's faster hardware, or is it pretty strict development requirements?
So I don't think anything in that regard has changed. They're going to require you to not use reprojection when your app ships. So you have to still have enough performance in your code to meet their requirements to be approved. And that's the thing is like there's a bunch of conjecture going on about how much more performance there actually is on the device compared to the Quest 1. And they did definitively say that it was something like 33% more GPU and 46 or 48% more CPU after accounting for the increased overhead of the higher rendering target. That's a pretty good bump. It's not like you're getting double the performance. So, and then you're gonna be running at 90 hertz potentially, and they didn't say whether that benchmark, whether those numbers were at 72 or 90. But I would assume they would want everyone to run at 90. But it'll be interesting to see how much 90 affects battery life too. You're running at 90 hertz, and if you get 2 hours in the current app, is that 1 hour now, or is it?
That's why they have that battery pack.
Yeah, which I did opt for.
Or segue into the Quest 2 accessories. Maybe we should start with the Quest 2 price, and then we'll talk about the accessories.
So I got a comment on the price. So it's cheap, right? Like it's priced really well, but they removed
What's the price? What's the price?
It's $299.
Yep.
Unless
So
you
it's
go
$100
crazy, then it's
cheaper for the base model, right?
$399 if you want all the storage.
You want
But they
4
removed
times
the
storage.
yeah, it's 4 times the store. But man, I mean, how long till the Quest 3 comes out? And then you're like,
A year.
like, geez, what am I gonna do with 250 gigs of Quest apps? Yeah, I don't know about that. But they removed the insert that you would put your glasses, like the spacer.
Out of the box.
And I can speak as someone with a larger nose
The
bridge.
spacer's in the box. The spacer
It's in the box?
Yes.
Why is it listed on the accessory page?
I saw an unboxing 2 days ago.
Okay.
And they pulled the
Okay.
spacer out of
Okay. All right.
there
You
is
can
a-
buy extra spacers if you have a
There's
bigger
a
nose than me.
kit that has 2 different sizes of padding, the facial interface.
Okay.
and that has a wider one to accommodate like wider glasses and a small narrower one for like narrower faces kind of a thing. And it comes with a glasses spacer also, but there is one in the box.
That's
Unless
awesome.
unless they
Hey,
only
Gav
send it to
has his
the
hand up,
reviewer.
too.
That makes me very happy.
Big
What's that?
question, Mr. Gaff?
Matt was breaking up for a while. His audio.
Yeah,
Is
he's
everybody
breaking
having
up for me too.
Yeah.
Breaking
Anybody
up.
else having that problem? Breaking up.
Is my
That can be
Better?
sometimes a network thing.
That's
Think
better.
Gaff better? Not better?
Say something.
something? How's that sound?
Sure. So far, so good. So far, so good.
I've had that problem. People have said that was going on for me, and I think it might be you get locked into a lower bandwidth voice thing. If not that that's easy to fix, if you got a lot of exciting stuff on your internet at your house.
Yeah. So I think
So
as far as other accessories, so they basically sort of put a cheapo head strap on it and lowered the price $100, and then they released official first-party alternate head straps for $50 for the deluxe one, which is like sort of the equivalent of the deluxe size strap if you've got a Hackintosh Quest 2 or you've got your Vive deluxe size strap attached to your Quest. Basically that without the headphones, because they are still using the audio ports on the arms of the headset. And then there's a version of that basically that has a battery on the back of it that is, I think you said it was like 80 or something by itself. I don't think currently you can buy it by itself. You have to buy it in a bundle that comes with a carrying case that's bigger so that you can accommodate for the battery pack. So, and
Any
that is
idea how much
125.
it weighs with the battery pack compared to the original Quest?
I'm guessing it weighs more. The current, I think it was like, I can't remember how many grams they said that just the raw device are different from each other. I thought it was like
10% less, something like that.
yeah, it's 10% less weight overall. With the like stretchy elastic like strap, sort of like the Oculus Go has. That's what it ships with from the factory, is with that style head strap. I don't think that there's very few specs on the accessories. There's like 1 or 2 pictures and a price, so there's not a lot of details. Some of the reviewers have access to the hardware, and they've been showing like I haven't seen anyone show off the battery strap yet, but I have seen a few people talk about the deluxe strap, and everyone's like, yeah, you should just pay the $50 and get it. It's way better than the elastic strap. So,
one thing that I'm curious
normal
about.
carrying case fits the elastic strap and the deluxe strap, but that's $50 also.
It looks like from some of the photos that the depth of the headset is shallower so that it doesn't hang as far off of your face. And assuming that all the heavy bits are on the far end of it, I wonder if it'll just feel a little less top heavy too, just with all of that being a little closer to your face and not like this long, heavy lever thing hanging off your face. Have you seen any comparisons of like the people that have done videos that have the Quest 2 for reviews or whatever? Did they line them up side by side to compare the size difference at all?
I did see a side by side, and it has like, it's slightly narrowed in the front, whereas the Quest is kind of narrowed out. Like it's got like a little bit taper out on the edges, and then it's physically just slightly smaller. So it is, when you set them side by side, you can see that it's noticeably smaller. People were saying though that some of the reviewers at least were saying that they were able to wear it a lot longer than they could wear the Quest 1. They would still get some head fatigue after, maybe double the amount of time it would take them to get that same head fatigue on Quest 1. So, And they did mention that the deluxe strap did add a lot more comfort because it has better weight distribution on the back of your head. And even though the head strap with the battery weighs more, technically that'll probably feel better because it'll kind of balance stuff out a little more because it has some weight in the back, kind of offsetting the weight in the front. So you're still gonna get neck compression a bit from just having weight on your head.
Yeah. Then I think the thing we've kind of danced around a little bit, but didn't explicitly say, it's got a brand new state-of-the-art Snapdragon Qualcomm chip. It's kind of been designed for VR and AR, and nobody can understand what kind of a sweetheart deal or subsidy they're doing to put that in a $300 headset.
I think also they kept using the term custom. So I think a bunch of the stuff that's in there is not there. So what the features that are native to the XR2 that they tout, like 5G and even like maybe the 60 GHz Wi-Fi and stuff like that. I'm guessing that they cherry picked the features to get the price down. So it'll be interesting. Although, it could come down to just there's features that aren't enabled yet because they're not exposed through the SDK. So we could end up with the same scenario we ended up with Quest 1 where just over time they unlock features because they are able to repurpose the hardware that's available in the chipset for other things.
Another thing
we had a good example of that, right, Zach?
Yeah. So Oculus and Facebook, being the public traded company that they are, they barely ever talk about future things. And when they do, they say real explicit things about how their research and so on. Unless you're John Carmack, then you mostly say what you want to say whenever. And one of the things from the kind of Carmack after party, we'll call it, there's basically a lot of developers there asking him questions. And so he's willing to say, I think that could happen. This is how likely I think it is that it actually will happen, or, some level of skepticism. But when we got to the question about improved hand tracking, that's where he got super happy. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's definitely coming. But one of the interesting things is we're running this powerful chip so close to the cooling thermal limit of the headset, possibly you'll have to opt for maybe less GPU if you want to use improved hand tracking. But there's a lot of purpose-built hardware in there in the Quest 2 that did not exist in Quest 1 at all.
Interesting.
That's one of my hopes. Is I think hand tracking is really neat, and I think it breaks so often that I would never give it to a beginner. I would never give it to an end user or anything like that at a business context.
Yeah, it's not ready for prime time yet, for sure. So
yeah,
but then
for social things, it's fine.
That creates a split too, right? If you're doing some sort of enterprise app and you want to use hand tracking, suddenly now you're limited to one device. So there's definitely going to be those splitsy things, I think, that happen.
And then one other thing we didn't touch on, we said it's getting 50% more pixels. So that puts it right at the top league with all the other headsets, pretty even. So it's a tiny bit ahead of the index, a tiny bit behind the upcoming HP headset, the Reverb G2. But one of the things we didn't say is it's going to have full RGB subpixels. So on the Quest 1, how many Quest 1s are in the room? About half. So if any of you find your nearest red object and stare at it, you'll see kind of this grainy texture across it that you don't see on like gray objects, or maybe not as much on yellow objects. So on Quest 1, like some phones, everywhere there's a pixel, you'll have a green and a red or a green and a blue. You'll never have all three on every pixel. They alternate. And so what that means in practice is you get kind of this grainy mesh. To me, it looks like a weave, like a I don't know, tightly knit shirt or something like that. And then when you try to read text, that's where you really pay the price. So some of the stuff we were doing scripting in Quest, you just had to zoom this ginormous text panel to be able to read it and not feel like you're having eye strain. So that'll just go away. So 50% more pixels, but 100% more subpixels if you count each RGB and account for the fact that a third of them are missing on the Quest 1. So it'll be a lot better for tech.
how likely do you think it is that they'll render that at that full native resolution, or if they'll go with like a down scaled render resolution?
Yeah, they made it sound like they're going to try to push people to use the full res. That's why they put all the thermal budget towards the GPU. One of the little details they shared was that the fixed foveated rendering will now have an automatic mode, so it'll kick in only when it's needed. Also, if you're on a Quest and you look at something with a lot of detail, like people's shirts, and then keep looking at it while you turn your head away, at some point it'll get pixely and dancy, and that's the fixed foveated rendering, where the outer part of your view is lower res than the middle. So assuming a place like this, it would probably never kick in, which would be nice, because it just makes it look worse for no reason.
For the subpixel color sharing, there's a name for it, right? They also do that on like phones or displays or something to keep the
Pentile. Yeah.
Yes, to keep the power level down, or it doesn't draw as much current and a little bit faster and so on. But then you've got all this stuff. So you also have. Do you have in Oculus 2? Do you have the same issue on the item that you were just talking about, where you have a higher resolution in the center of the display than on the edges of the peripheral?
So that's a software thing that they call fixed foveated rendering, and it will have the option to kick in if your frame rate drops. But the apps that you buy in the store have been tested for good frame rate, so it should be really rare. But if you're developing on your own, yeah, you can turn it on, I think, and crank it up.
Do you think they tested this app that we're in right now? Okay.
So this app and VR chat do not deserve to be in the Oculus store, but I guess we're glad they're there.
Agreed. Okay.
They do not hold a frame rate.
No.
They got a free
don't
pass.
do that thorough testing too. I mean, they hit it pretty small. I don't know. My experience is, like, you see how much time they actually spend on that.
That's with your app on the PC?
Well, yeah, I guess it's the PC. I suppose it might be more strict than the Quest. Is that what you're saying? They are.
Yeah. Well, Quest is kind of famously strict, so maybe that's another good time for a segue. Maybe I'll make RJ talk about this one. He's been too quiet. So one of the big things that they announced recently, and they talked a little bit more about, was this idea that not every app needs to go through the full blessing and certification process. They're going to have a way to deploy to Quest without that. You want to give a little summary, RJ?
Sure. Yeah. So pretty. SideQuest is pretty well known among the developer and kind of probably more enthusiast consumer community. For the Oculus Quest headset, basically it involves sideloading games into your headset from basically just this repository of all these other developers' apps. It basically acts as its own kind of, unofficial store. People have been using it. It's gotten really popular. The big news, actually, literally just from today, is that they got like a crap load of funding from like a VC fund, and I think they said like it was like 100 of it, or just some undisclosed amount of that VC funding today was from Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus. So that was kind of a big deal for SideQuest. Like they got just a lot of money just to keep running. But yeah, traditionally the way they've done loading apps onto your headset is side loading, which means the user has to create a developer account on the Oculus website just to be able to load other people's apps on there. And despite there being a lot of friction to this method, SideQuest ended up being pretty popular. It's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Quest users, monthly coming in to check out new apps, stuff like that. So it's immensely popular, and I think it probably got so popular to the point where Oculus really had to seriously sit down and consider what to do to let people try more experimental things out, because they don't want that field of like dead developer accounts. And they actually, I think that's the reason they started that kind of verification process a couple of weeks ago, was to combat that. So instead of having a bunch of fake developer accounts just for people to use SideQuest, they now have a new off-store distribution system that they're going to be kicking in early 2021, where basically anybody can upload a Quest app to their developer dashboard similarly how they can right now for the Go and the Rift, RIP to both pretty soon. They're going to basically let you upload your app, and then it won't show up on the Quest store, but you can share a direct link that people can go to, and they can view it like on the Quest app or like as if it was on the Quest store, and they can download it from there. And the really big news with that is that they're also letting people offer.
You guys hear RJ?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was hearing him.
Okay. Okay. So the
Just me
biggest
then.
part of that I think that they announced from that news distribution system is that not only are they allowing that, but they are allowing paid apps. So developers could actually still make money from making Quest apps, having it on the Quest store. It just won't be officially listed on the Quest store. People won't be able to find it, but they can share it through other distribution methods. The biggest one, obviously, being SideQuest. And, you know, the SideQuest founder and some of the people on that team have talked about how they're going to transition from what they are now, which is basically a repository of, you know, GitHub releases links or Dropbox links for people's APKs on their store listing, to being, you know, official, just Oculus direct URLs to these Quest apps. So it's going to be super beneficial for the users because it means they don't have to make a developer account. They don't have to put their Quest in developer mode. They don't even have to connect it to their PC. They just have to basically visit a site that has a link on it, click it, see your app, and say they want to download it. So it's basically going to take the side out of SideQuest, but SideQuest is still going to have the popularity and the numbers going into it that it's going to be a really good, like, other option for developers. And it's not just developers who, you know, didn't get accepted to the store yet. It's going to be great for a lot of the smaller kind of enterprise uses where people aren't really necessarily using it officially as Oculus for Business. They're just using it in an education sense. Like they're just trying to distribute an app to like other people in a school, or they're just trying to, you know, distribute an app among like you know, a small business or something, or a museum. Like they don't have
Or
to
just
go
testing,
through the whole
right? Getting
intense
early
process.
access, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. And so I think that's going to be a huge deal because, number one, SideQuest already has a lot of users. This is going to make all of those users happy and make it way easier for them to get more users. But also, it's going to be super beneficial for developers and for Oculus. So it's like a win-win-win. Like Oculus is going to get rid of all these fake developer accounts, get rid of this really kind of jank method of people shoving apps into their headsets and often using that same service to pirate some of these apps. And then also, you know, kind of opening up their store, which has been sort of, as you said, kind of infamously strict in the past. So I think that's
So
going to
RJ,
be a
it
big
seems
deal
like
for everybody.
it seems like SideQuest goes from being its own app on your Mac or PC to just sidequest.com. All the same stuff is there. It's ultimately just a website anyway, and then you click on the link, download it, and you're set, right? So that seems pretty
Exactly, yeah. I can even imagine
would-
just like a Oculus browser optimized version of SideQuest. You could just literally do it from your headset.
Well, and couldn't SideQuest make an app that is just a browser so that you could launch an app inside your
Right.
Quest that is then browsing all the stuff that they're curating in that hidden store, right? To take
Well,
even more
The
friction out of
current
it.
app is just built with Electron. It's literally just a website.
Yeah, it's just a web browser. So, yep. So
So
basically,
you
you
have
just
to
use the
sideload
Oculus
it.
browser, sidequest.com, and then you're set. That's cool.
Well, I think Cosmic Blast will be on that for sure.
I have
Yeah.
one comment on that. And I think that it's cool that they're opening up that distribution panel, that distribution method, making it easier, stuff like that. If a lot of people go that path, there's so much demand to publish content there. Why not just put it in the regular store? I just don't see why, they're going to do all this effort, they're going to build this model for all these alternative things. And it's going to gain popularity because there's going to be a lot of interesting, weird stuff there. So why segregate it from the other stuff?
I
That's a
agree.
good question.
I think they're going to try to avoid the Steam problem. They're just like, so the official app and the official store is going to look nice and pretty with their curated apps, but it's still going to have kind of the untamed wild feel to it that Steam does, but taking out the problem of, opening up Steam VR and, half the apps are, a little creepy, to be honest. Like, just because it's virtual reality. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you
Hey,
know what I
RJ.
mean. I'm not going by name.
Hey, question. Do you know if they're going to let you have an icon and actual like real estate on the home screen, or are you still going to have to dig down through unknown sources?
They're not going to be unknown sources. These apps are going to show up directly in the home library, which is going to make it even better for all those like enterprises and stuff. Is not having
It
a
will
client
support
get to the
distribution
freaking
channels
internet.
like you get with normal Rift apps, where you can have alpha, beta, different release builds that you have set up while you're publishing. It's going to be treated just like a normal published app. It just won't be.
You're just not good enough to be on the store.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. That's my app right there.
Well, right.
there.
And then now, how confusing is it going to be though if somebody gets really popular and then they say, "Oh, your app has been really, really popular. We want to move it over to the store."
That's natural.
Why not?
And probably what will happen is that the distribution method is exactly the same, and they just literally make it appear in the store.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, that sounds awesome.
This is good news.
Literally,
Well, one thing.
No, that's like.
Go ahead, Marty.
Every app store already hides their the apps they're ashamed of. There are absolutely a ton of apps that don't show up unless you search for them in the iOS App Store, in the Google Play Store, probably Steam. I mean, basically every app store already does this.
Yeah, I was going to bring up.
I think
who remembers XNA on the Xbox 360?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
this reminds me of that quite a bit, where developers like, "Oh my God, I'm going to put an app on the Xbox. This is amazing." And then the players waited like 1 month, and then they decided every XNA app is shit. Everything in that part of the store is shit. I'm never going to go on that part of the store.
Mm-hmm.
And they were true, absolutely correct for like 80% of the things in there, but there was some really good stuff that nobody would go look for. So hopefully this sidesteps that. If someone can do a good job curating outside of the store, maybe.
Yeah. And I think that would maybe come down to, in this case, SideQuest being the curator.
Yeah.
Trying to put all the good stuff at the front, and then being flexible enough to support, assisting developers to market their wares, in the store.
Yep.
Because if it just becomes a giant puddle of things or pile of things, then it just becomes other people. And then you have to rely on your own marketing to get people to go there and find your app. Which, is the case regardless. But
I think it's also worth mentioning that SideQuest isn't going to have the monopoly on side questing apps anymore, because if they're just all they're doing is pointing to the store. If SideQuest starts to suck, somebody else can make a better SideQuest and compete with SideQuest, because there's nothing proprietary about what they're doing now, which is awesome.
Yeah, it would open it up for someone else to curate things as well. That you could have your curation for just good stuff. If you want to do.
Let's maybe jump ahead here. One of the good segues I caught there, someone mentioned that not only is this for games, this is a good way to deploy business apps or museums and things like that. Let's talk about Oculus for Business just a little bit. So that's existing for the public, existing for just under a year, or maybe just over a year now, where you buy headsets and support contracts that cost more. But there's a few changes listed today. How many people work with that? Mark and Shane? Is that anybody else? You want to talk a little bit about changes and what you saw? Pico.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you want to share a little?
Shane, feel free if you want to talk about the changes. Shane, feel free.
That actually was one part that I didn't catch, so I can't say much to it.
They lowered the price now. Yep. So it was $1,000, $200 cheaper. So it's $799, I think, for the develop for the this Oculus for Business, and I believe it will be based on the Quest 2 because they've depreciated the Rift S and the Quest 1.
There's one model. It's 256 gigs only. We've been using them. What's cool about it, if you're distributing things they need to be secure, you can control the device. You can put PIN numbers. You can restrict people. You can also set them up. So if you're sending one to demo to somebody, you can pre-configure you know, if you know they're going to be at a specific office, you can set Wi-Fi and passwords and usernames up and that sort of thing. You can push updates over the air. It's really slick. So I think the biggest thing is for the work we're doing, this is just a win-win on a more powerful Quest that'll instantly be better. All the old apps are going to run and a lower price. And they also do support. So you pay for it, I think it's 165 a year after the first year. Is that right? Something like that. And if you drop one
Is
when
that
it breaks
per
or something,
headset or
they ship you a new
per
one.
company?
Yeah.
Per headset.
Per device.
Per headset, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and one of the other things they spoke of it mostly in terms of Oculus for Business, but I think it's going to come across all the OS versions. This idea of a track keyboard. So you're going to use your VR headset now for productivity, and there's going to be an optically tracked keyboard. And I actually happen to already own the one that they talked about, so I'll let everybody know how it works when it shows up, and then I'll instantly stop using that keyboard and try on my other keyboard. Because it's not an exclusive license or anything like that. It's just, this is the one we are going to tell you to get. This is, we're going to recommend this one. And John Carmack confirmed that anything that same shape and that same colors for the letters, or not even colors, but contrast, should work fine. And he thought that my request for a split keyboard would probably not work fine, but that we should try to brigade all of Reddit to get in the feedback forums for Oculus and get that voted up. But
So is
that's not,
it is
limited. That's not limited
What's
to
that?
the Oculus for Business program, is it?
No, because they showed it in the main keynote, but they only talked about it for Oculus for Business, so I don't think it is. But it hasn't been 100% super clear. But I'd be shocked, basically, the way that they didn't. They're usually careful to restrain things like that. One of the other ones that was only in the Oculus for Business.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
One of the other ones that maybe is restricted, only in the Oculus for Business separate talk did they mention the idea of having pass-through video for your background. So having your web browser or your spreadsheet and then seeing your coffee mug and stuff. That might be more limited. They were very careful to immediately follow that up with, but no, the software doesn't have access to it. No, Facebook doesn't have access to it. No, you can't see a depth map of the room to do your fancy AR compositing.
And
so
I think in that video they showed spatial being used as the meeting software, where they had they were in a conference room and they could pass through to the contents, and there's somebody that walked in the door with like something and handed it to them, and they were in a VR headset.
And they're actively soliciting productivity apps, so they really think that's going to be a thing. I'm a little skeptical, but I guess if you really don't have a monitor.
Well, I think as these get better, that will get more useful. And there's an example video they have called the Infinite Office, right? Which basically shows that keyboard you're talking about, you being able to use the browser in different screens and using the keyboard for input and mouse. And that's a Logitech keyboard, right? The one that they
it's just $60 KT 830 Bluetooth keyboard and touchpad. You've always been able to get a mouse working with the Quest, but the software didn't support it. You'd get a mouse cursor over one eye at a time, and it was really very hard to use.
Yes, not ideal.
So that'll be nested into Windows the way it should be, I assume. So I think that'll show up for browsers first on the consumer headset. The other question, I'm ready to stick. Yeah, question, go.
Is there any tech that you can actually see the keyboard? I mean, because typing in VR is awful. So what is the
pass
behind
through?
it?
It shows the keyboard.
It's a little selective pass through. Yep.
It's like it's using the machine learning recognition of the keyboard and the hands, so they can work together, and you can literally see your hands on the keyboard.
Yep. So it's a very high tech solution instead of just like you're trying to, because sometimes I have to look at the keyboard, But that sounds cool.
Yeah,
that sounds
I think so. And I think it'll show up with the web browser first. I think best place to use it too, and we're gonna type some stuff. This is another good segue. One thing we didn't mention about Oculus for Business, and it's the true reason to pay the extra money, is Facebook does not intercept and monitor your traffic when you're in the Oculus for Business program. But they do for us consumers. So one of the things we have to mention about Quest 2, it was very carefully released, 2 or 3 weeks earlier to separate the anger from the beautiful press releases of the event, that every Quest 2 is going to require a Facebook login to even use it. And if you have a Quest now, you probably actually already linked your Oculus account to a Facebook login, or you couldn't do friend invites and party chat, but maybe you didn't. You're good till 2021, no, 2023. It was too long to care about, is what I remember.
As long as you stay on the Quest 1.
Quest 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or Rift.
But for Quest 2, you will need a Facebook account.
Oh boy, yeah.
It is.
It's really, I mean,
Someone brought up the fact that it makes testing harder because then you have to reuse your real account to do testing. And one of the
But-
Facebook engineers did say you can just use a developer. Just through your developer account, you can create fake users. So you can create a test account that's on your Facebook developer account, and you can log in with that. So
Yeah.
it's still you, but it's like, it's a fake test user. And they didn't say
Like a
they said that you
sub-user,
can do
right?
that for testing purposes, but I'm assuming if you abuse that, there's probably consequences at some point.
Well, it can't do everything that a real account can do.
Yeah.
But it might be neat for demos too, if it kind of actually restricts what can be done potentially.
Yeah.
But
I have
yeah,
some
so
Facebook
that's
accounts I created in 2002 or something. I'm gonna try and use one of those. We'll see.
So
I did
since
see a bunch of people posting on that too, and they're like, I have like 5 fake Facebook accounts. I'll just use one of those. So it's going to be a thing. It'll be interesting to see what kind of challenge Facebook puts up to that.
and there's definitely Redditors and when I lost the battery there, we lost RJ. There's definitely Redditors, and there's even some reviewers that kind of picked that as the hill to die on and made sure to mention it a whole lot in their Quest 2 review. The notable one is Ars Technica, which has a lot of traffic. The guy did find a bunch of nits to pick on the hardware as well, but I think it was in bad faith because one of his big ones was the IPD, and his IPD is 62.1, and the 63 was just not good enough. And then you walk backward, you're like, wow, that doesn't even make a slight bit of sense. And you walk backwards to his Oculus Go review, and he didn't have any complaints where you couldn't adjust the IPD in the Oculus Go. So, I mean, it's a podium that might help.
I think that article purely exists to be a negative perspective on the device because there were so many positive ones.
Yeah.
That was an intentional decision.
If it makes a change, that's good. If people think they're not going to buy the Quest 2 and they're going to have a material effect on the world, they're not paying attention to the fact that Facebook spent $16 billion on R&D in the past 12 months. Billion. So the $300 headset they buy isn't going to slow that down very much on the way to doing AR.
RJ texted and said his battery died.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep. And
We're
one thing
into
is
time.
that there is a it's that small vocal minority that say they care about privacy, but the reality is a whole bunch of us ordered Quest 2s. Facebook use is still very, very high. It just nothing seems to kind of bring people down from it. So that's just a reality for sure. It's a pundit take on it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and there is, well, I think we all blame Google for stepping out of the race way too soon on VR, but especially those of us that develop apps for it. Not super happy that they just cut it off abruptly, but once Apple steps in, and hopefully somebody else, there'll be a race again. And there are PC options like if you're truly only doing PC stuff and you got money, you get the Index. If doing flight sims and you need the best screens possible, but maybe you're not moving around a whole lot, you get the HP Reverb G2 that's coming out. That'll have the best panels of anything. Wait for the reviews. They had a little trouble with their first launch, but They're HP.
But
and
those
they know
are
what they're-
really fringe devices, right, in the scheme of things.
Yeah, especially for the money.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is
Yeah.
where the mass market is for sure. I do think it is going to position Apple stronger in their privacy kind of first approach. Again, their revenue doesn't depend on invading your privacy, so to speak. So they will be able to make a device. It feels like they're the only possible competitor to Facebook in this way, in kind of mass market devices that are AR and VR coming down the road.
They got the cash.
Yeah,
In the short
Yeah.
term, I agree.
the
Yeah.
downside is going to be that Apple device is going to have to be replaced every year, and it's going to come with like 12 gigs of storage and then 40% more 4 gig. It's going to have millions of dongles sticking out of it because they can't make anything that doesn't require a million dongles. And
Well,
They are
I
the
think that
largest company in the world, so it does appear to be working for them. But I agree with all those things for sure.
and Apple makes money on their hardware. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that this Quest is being sold at a profit. Like,
no, there's no way.
so Apple's not going to lose money on hardware, so it's going to be more expensive.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to bet that if you just tried to buy one XR2 chip from Qualcomm, it would cost more than $299. So I just don't know how
Yeah.
they're definitely subsidizing it at some level.
Or they got a special
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
Your data is worth more.
Mm-hmm.
True.
But hey,
No.
how many of us moved to Canada? I mean, come on, right?
Not even yet.
Anybody
I've
here in
looked into
Canada?
it. It's tough.
No, we all stayed. Come on.
Well,
Yeah.
it's,
Now you can't even
We're
go
all-
to Canada if you want to. So it's
I know,
crazy, right?
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
you had
lock
your
us
chance,
out.
suckers. Now you're stuck here.
Yeah. Literally
Go
can't even
visit.
engage in there.
We're all
Unless
we're
you're
in it to win
personally
it
gonna
now.
unless you're personally going to invest $1 million into their economy, you can't move there. Like, you can live there short term, but you can't stay there.
How much money do you need?
I can't remember the
let's
exact
pull-
number, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, we can pull it together, and one of us gets to go. We'll draw straws.
We'll have a single passport that we just share.
We'll just draw mustaches on it when we go through.
And timeshare. That's what it is.
All right, sorry for derailing it.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
we can pound through the last, as RJ reminded us, with his battery and his sudden death and disappearance.
Nice segue.
We're coming up on 9 o'clock here, so we can pound through a few things in the last 8 minutes. We were talking about PC a little bit. It's important to note that you can use the Oculus Quest on a PC. It's called Oculus Link, and it more or less just turns it into a PC headset. Today, it doesn't look quite as sharp as what you get on a real PC headset because it has to pass through a USB cable instead of like an HDMI or DisplayPort. But it sounds like they're looking at improving that, possibly not right at launch.
We do Zach.
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 You run out of battery?
Oh no.
You know, if somebody had a stroke in VR, you'd have no idea.
Yep.
Well, his eyes are still moving. It's pretty disturbing. It's like he's
Yeah.
frozen inside of his body.
Oh, he blinked.
Oh.
Oh man, I was gonna get a picture.
These reactions.
Oh,
You're in charge, Marty. Hope he's all right though. I mean, really.
There was one other thing. I don't know if Zach was planning to talk about it, and I can't remember who he was segueing to.
I've got the agenda in front of us, so go for it. Yeah.
But the developer tools that were announced at Facebook Connect look pretty awesome. So there is a. I'm gonna pull it up here. Right in front of me. So it's called Oculus Developer Hub, and it's like a set of tools that allow you to mirror the device onto your PC, check the operating system version that's on the device, push apps directly to the device, do debugging. It's got like a
ton of nice developer-oriented features, and it's going to be pushed out. I think it's just general developer tool. I don't think it requires Oculus for business or anything, but
I think that's right. Yeah.
it looks
Is it like
fabulous.
ADB stuff, or what are you talking about?
Yep, does ADB stuff. There's a video that one of the videos from the Facebook Connect specifically on just the software. So if you want to get the details, that's probably the best place to look. You can toggle on the OVR metrics, so you can see like GPU, CPU stats, temperatures, things like that. You can cast from the Quest to your PC, so you don't need a TV. Essentially, you can just cast directly from the device here. It has like a package manager for Oculus platform stuff, so you can install the OVR metrics tool directly on your device through like a single button press. It has like statistics and kind of things for like viewing. In addition to like OVR metrics, it'll just show you like CPU, GPU kind of statistics. It looks super good. Some of that stuff exists right now. It's just that you have to find it, jump through all the hoops, know that it exists, and use it. It seems like they're trying to package up this whole suite of debugging and metrics gathering and deployment onto like a cohesive application. So it's pretty phenomenal.
It's amateur hour here. How terrible does this sound?
So quiet.
Quiet.
Because I'm not megaphone. What this? Background noise?
Yep.
You back?
You're back. What happened?
Nope.
Maybe my Quest battery died.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You can
it was
use
plugged
them while
in,
they're
just
plugged
not at
in.
the other end of the cord, the part that goes into the charging block.
Amazing.
All the inconvenience, none of the
design. That's amazing.
I heard Matt talking about the Oculus development tool. I don't know if he said this, but one of the things that maybe flew under the radar is you can take screenshots and video without the lens distortion. So a nice
I did not.
flat rectangular.
Oh.
I'm super excited for that tool. Check the video out. It's got some good info. Posted on the
I
Facebook
don't know if you said
developer
this
forum.
already, but is it a specific platform? The tool?
I'm guessing it's Windows only. And then obviously there's only one in Oculus device. So Quest.
Yeah, that's one of the miscellaneous things. Did we talk about the Rift S getting killed?
I don't think we specifically said it.
We didn't, yeah. All mobile from here on out.
No one used that anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through my list here.
I used the original Rift still.
I think with the Quest 2 being such high resolution screen and Oculus Link coming out of beta, there's just less of a need for that, right? So it makes sense you'd have one product. Simplify.
Probably the only thing we didn't touch on from my high level stuff was the AR, and there's not a lot to say. They talked about Project Aria, which is essentially a sensor platform with no displays that they're using to start to collect data for their kind of R&D work. And then they also announced that in 2021 they're going to release some sort of smart glasses in conjunction with Ray-Ban. And then they showed some logos of Ray-Ban, and that was all they said, right? Is there any other detail?
And not VR glasses, right? There will not be any displays in them, right? Potentially cameras, certainly microphones and speakers, but that's all, right?
So that's for Project Aria. Yeah,
Which
so that's
is
just internal research. But then for the Ray-Ban announcement, was there any detail at all?
No.
Yes, they're really concerned about privacy, and they take your privacy like super seriously. And when we respect you and your privacy, that's what they say.
And that was just by our actions, not our words, right? Yeah.
And that was,
That was
a
the
strange,
whole.
that was a strange
And you
thing
know they
about-
mean it because they had when Boz was talking, they had a slide next to him in his video, and it listed the 5 things that are like the most important to developing the right AR platform and gaining people's trust. And number 4 was put people first. So
It's the fourth most important thing.
Like zombie.
And I think that was an interesting kind of situation that they specifically are talking about how they're at the research level, at least. They're super worried about privacy and making sure that when they release this device, it fits into societal norms, kind of thing. And yet it's Facebook, and they're actively running a disinformation campaign, being paid by politicians, and just taking the money. And so it's kind of hard to take that seriously, I guess.
I think they're being sincere, right? I think the people who are talking about privacy,
they're
they're legitimately concerned because they work for Facebook. Like they're, all the people who are making this cool stuff, like they give a shit about this, right? Like they care about your privacy and they know what a liability it is that all of this is under the Facebook banner. So I think that it seems to me like the way it came across in those videos is that all of these folks are campaigning, making a public campaign and saying, hey, we've been campaigning on privacy and privacy and privacy, just because they know Mark Zuckerberg sitting at the top is gonna, they're fighting against the whole system that's funding them, which is great, but it's hilarious at the same time. So.
And sad.
Yeah, how much of that 16 billion goes into marketing?
16 billion is only R&D.
Yeah, I think it's just R&D. And
so no marketing.
But they're breaking a lot of new ground. They're literally trying to build things that don't exist, and you have to build lots of things that you never actually use for anything, just to gain the knowledge.
It's super fascinating watching that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's expensive, and that's why they're in the current position they are in, because everyone else is reacting. And to some extent, that's Apple's MO. They do a shit ton of R&D and build products that never see the light of day, so that when they release a product, there's a lot of thought put into it, and it works. And so that's kind of the reason why we're all thinking that Apple's going to be the next competitor, is because they're the only other company that's doing this level of R&D, in the space. So I don't think HTC is going to survive for the next few years. It's sad to say, but they're just throwing out a lot of products, but they haven't been great. They've used a shotgun approach to just building a lot of stuff, and it just seems like they're kind of just floundering and not really producing anything that it's not terrible. It's not good. It's not in the realm that the Quest is for.
Matt, you're so right on that. Even if you went to HTC's site, which one should I buy? No one can figure it out. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the perfect example is the Odyssey, right? It didn't know what it was doing. It was like a cluster of ideas, and it just failed at all of them. And they tried to fill in the shortcomings by you rip off the thing, you plug in the Steam tracker, and then you take in their controllers are based on optical light, and they run for 40 minutes on 2 AA batteries per controller. So you're constantly just putting batteries in this thing. If it was going to do that, it should at least be rechargeable, So there was a bunch of just spectacular fails in some of their recent products. So
yeah, about an hour before this meeting started, Bloomberg ran an article about Magic Leap and going through why their CEO had to step down and everything after those types of failures.
And they were trying to do the same thing. They raised a ton of money for R&D. I don't know what they did with it, because they didn't. The product, I don't know, it's the one product. I buy a lot of stuff. I buy anything I think that is interesting. I try to buy. And that one I was
skeptical on because they were selling us the moon. You know, that picture of the whale is always in my head, like splashing down on the gymnasium, and I'm like, how is that actually going to function? And their first developer video was like this low poly little golem that had like stuttery frame rate and threw a rock at like 10 frames per second. And I was like, nope, hard out. That's
Mark,
what
did you
they're
guys do one? Oh, sorry.
No.
Okay.
No, I think we're not doing as much with the headset-based AR. We're doing a little with the HoloLens too and the Unreal Light stuff right now, but definitely more VR right now. Those to me are all things that are kind of down the path, but learning, but they're just, unless you have a perfect use for them or it's some specific use case, they're a challenge to kind of do much with, I think.
Yeah.
And then
Anybody
people
here?
always made interesting decisions that, were like, make two different sizes because of, different size heads.
Weird.
So just, then now you're doubling the money you have to invest in hardware, and then, I don't know, just, it's sort of a comedy of errors, basically, kind of how it rolled out.
Well, I think we're
Well, on that
time
uplifting
here.
note,
Sorry.
Wow.
Every party
We
has
got any final questions from the audience or anything before we switch over to touring alt space and socializing?
How many people pre-ordered a Quest 2?
Mr. Gaff, you got a question? Let me use my host tools.
Oh, okay.
Just this once. All right, go.
Oh, there we go. Hey, Matt, what platform are you using, and are you using hand track?
Currently, like right now, or I think you cut out.
I didn't hear him.
While
I see
you've
your
been
avatar's
talking to
mouth
us,
moving.
what are you using as a platform right now?
Oh, I'm on the Quest right now. Just
Are you using hand
regular-
tracking?
Nope, I'm just animating my
Okay.
hands. I would love to use hand tracking, although the app will not let you load in. If
Yeah, I
you
don't think
start
it supports it. Does
yeah,
it?
these controllers. Yeah, it's not
Okay.
hand friendly or hand only at least.
Okay.
Your hands just look more expressive than everybody else's.
Well, you can use the grip and the triggers to do things like this,
He was like saying, "Oh, I'm going to go use my keyboard and like typing," and it looked like he was actually typing. It was.
Oh,
I was mistaken, of course.
I'd love to do
Smoke
that.
and
And
mirrors.
I think that's one of the things that we tried about Horizon that was like, why? That's for hand tracking? Like literally your app, your platform. Why doesn't it support it?
Yeah. Puzzling.
Okay. Thanks everybody for coming, and hang around if you want to chat and go see some places in AltSpace. Did anybody go to any of the Burning Man sites here?
Nice. Shame.
Anybody do that? Doesn't sound like it. So maybe that'll be some of our first stops, is checking out a few of the Burning Man sites.
Let's go to Burning Man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I would have had time when it was kind of officially going on, but
Who has drugs?
Martin in the purple is ready for sure to go to Burning Man. I would say.
He's already been there.
The full body feed.
Smurf Martin.
Gotta get going, but thanks for holding this meeting. It was a good one. I'll be at
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for
glad you could
coming.
make it.
Yep. See you later.
Right. All right, let me
I messed
pick a
up the
random one.
screen. Well, don't
Can I
do it
mention
quite
real quick, if you guys want? If anybody is looking to hire a VR developer, I'm available. So just throwing it out there. 2 VR games
Hey.
under my belt.
Cool.
So there you go.
I'll say this: at Space, we are looking to grow the team, so we're just kind of in the early phases